Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a special but sadly last episode of the year of Coast to Coast College Football Pregame Show. I'm your host, Uncle Shally Bill Shawcross, top left corner, the reigning champ, Buckeye brother from another mother, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. How are you, sir?
I'm feeling good. It still feels so good, man. Still feel it's like every week just gets better and better. Like age is like wine.
Fine red wine. In the top right corner, couldn't do it without him, Mr. West Coast, Mr. Eye Black, Mr. X Pac 12, Mr. Came up a little bit short, Alex Elmore. How are you, sir?
Well, coming up short seems to be the theme of my life. You know what I'm saying? But no, honestly, I'm just happy to be here. Also, kind of thankful it's the last show, so I don't have to listen to Cottrell yap about Ohio State's national championship anymore. Last year, I had to listen to you yap. This year, I got to listen to him. So hopefully next year, it's my turn. I've been waiting patiently, but I'm excited to be here. Last show of the year. I appreciate everybody tuning in who's watched us all season, and I'm excited to break down some awards, still get break the huddle going, all that good stuff, and I'm ready to get it rolling.
Well, funny enough, first off, I hate to tell you, you're going to have to listen to Cottrell yap next year too until the playoffs over.
Facts.
But we have a fun show today. We wanted to go out with kind of a fun show and kind of wrap everything up in a nice little bow. So. We're obviously going to break the huddle as always. Then we're going to go over what we think the top 10 jobs are in the country if they were open. Then we're going to go to our way too early college football prediction for next year, what we think our top 12 teams will be, and then we're going to end with year-end awards. So it will be a fun, probably spirited show when we get to certain things, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we will be on break for a little bit, but we'll get into a little bit more of that at the end of the show. So, Alex, as always, you start us off, sir. Get us going.
Shotgun, DC right, flip 90, dig, on the center, ready?
Man, I'm going to have to watch that clip just to get out of the morning, or just get out of bed in the morning, just to get myself ready for the day. But no, welcome to last Break the Huddle of the season. We're going to start out with some ESPN news. ESPN has officially picked up the last 10 years of the ACC streaming contract that was signed in 2016. It was a 20-year deal with an option to get out of it after 10 years. They have officially picked up the remaining 10 years on that deal through 2036. What's your guys' opinion on that? Do you think, did ESPN have other options? Did you think the ACC could have gotten more money from somewhere else? Or do you think this is kind of a marriage, matched in heaven?
It's a marriage of convenience, if you're being honest. They obviously kind of have their kind of deal with the SEC network, so they get a lot of those games. And then obviously they kept the ACC. They had to do this because when they lost the Big Ten last year, it definitely put a dent into their ratings and also what they want to do. There's all those conspiracy theories out there of why ESPN was so anti-Big Ten this year, but that to some degree probably is a little bit of part of it. But I think it's good for them. For the ACC, I think it's a blessing. I think it's Christmas come early for ACC. For all the troubles they're going through with teams possibly leaving and not want to redoing their contracts and et cetera. To them still be able to put their teams on ESPN every week is a blessing for them. So. I think it's a great move. It's a great thing for the ACC. I think it's a move that ESPN really had no choice to make. They get obviously the SEC and the ACC, and then they're missing out on the Big Ten, and then obviously the Big 12 has their own deal. But overall, I think it's a smart move on both sides, and I think it's better for the ACC than it is for ESPN. But again, I think ESPN's hands were tied a little bit. I don't think they really had much choice in the matter.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think for ESPN specifically, you don't want to miss out on the next couple years of Bill Belichick being in North Carolina. You also have Clemson and Miami that are still playing, I'm not going to say good football, but football that people want to see. People are going to tune in to watch those two teams play. And then with Florida State, them still being in the ACC, they're always going to be a draw as well. They were awful this past year, but people still tuned in to see them play up until, they probably like week 7 or week 8 when you really knew that they were out of it, because it was like, all right, that first Georgia Tech game, like maybe that was just a blip on the radar. And then every single week you just kept tuning in to see how bad is this team actually going to be. So like, not to mention, SMU obviously had a good run this year as well. So I mean, I think the talent and the intrigue is there. Like Bill mentioned as well, you want to make sure for ESPN side of things, you want to make sure you keep a second conference just to keep those ratings up and things like that. And then for the ACC, on the flip side of that is, I think short term, you look great right now, like for all the reasons that I mentioned, Bill, Florida State, Miami, all those good things. But literally all that stuff 5 years from now could look drastically different. Bill could be back in the NFL. Florida State and Clemson could be out of the conference. So you want some stability moving forward. So I think it was a deal that made sense really for both sides for separate reasons there.
Yeah, I mean, the total deal for the ACC is $4.8 billion over that 20 years, which accumulates to $17.1 billion total per school. It's definitely one of the least lucrative of the contracts of the 4 major conferences. The Big 12 is under contract till 2031, with each school making $31.7 million. The Big 10 is under contract till 2030, with each school making $71.87 million of that. And then the SEC is wrapped up till 2034, and they're making just under $69 million per school. Is there an issue with you guys, like how big and drastic the money is? I mean, the ACC only getting $17 million versus the next lowest in the Big 12 getting 30, just under 32.
That's how you negotiate your deals. I mean, and again, the SEC went out and spent a ton of money up front to make the SEC network. The Big 10 did the same thing, and it was smart, because if the games aren't getting poached naturally, then everybody else in those conferences that want to watch their teams, they all have to turn to those networks. Those networks are generating ratings and money every single weekend. And it was smart. It's not just a football thing. Like, again, you turn on like right now, you turn on the Big 10 network every Friday, Saturday night. There's back-to-back hockey games on. There's volleyball games on. There's gymnastics on. It's giving fans of those conferences access to every single sport that's going on. It was genius at the time. I know when the Big 10 launched theirs, they spent like billions of dollars up front, and everybody's like, you're never going to get it back. And the first 2 years, it was free. And then on top of that, there's the Big 10 app, which you can pay another like $5 a month, and you can watch anything at any time. Like, it's like on demand almost. And it's been great for them. It's made them so much money in the conference. So no, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's, you got to spend money to make money, man. And as we've seen this year, with how much the landscape has changed in college football, you got to spend it. And if you have it, you got to spend it. The Big 10 has it. The SEC has it. I don't think the ACC is on the same level. And, the Big 12 did a really good job of not only going through, the reconfiguration of the entire conference, but still getting a really good TV deal, in my opinion, for who was still left in the conference. So, no, I mean, you're going to get out of this what you put into it, and then these schools are going to have to pony up eventually. But overall, like I said, I think it's great for the ACC, because no matter how you slice it, I mean, ESPN is still, the biggest sports channel. So their teams being on ESPN is still a blessing for them.
You're on mute, Alex.
Thank you. I was coughing. Sorry. No, but like I said, this was a 20-year deal started in 2016. The other deals were signed in 2023 or later. So I think maybe that might have a little something to do with the money. And I'm sure the ACC is excited for 2036 to roll around so they can renegotiate this contract. But I absolutely love everything you said. But I love the Big 10 network. Honestly, access to everything year round. College baseball is one of those things that I feel like is never streamed on TV. And with those conference networks, you could really have a chance to actually watch in, dial in, and get used to those names that are going to be household names in the future. So I definitely appreciate the Big 10 having their own network. Control, anything else you want to say about the television deals or anything like that before we move on to some Ohio State, Penn State news?
No, nothing else really.
I mean, honestly,
we covered a lot of it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for you guys, it was a godsend. I mean, you guys came from the Pac-12, I believe you had your own network, but I don't think it's anything like the Big Ten.
There
one.
was a network, but it wasn't great. And it was like, I think they tried to make a deal work with like TBS, like for like the nighttime games or something at one point. Like they were trying a bunch of stuff to get something sort of agreement, but never really trickled down to anything major. Yeah, thanks, Justin. Exactly, it sucked. But yeah, I think they used to have the nighttime, like the 7:00 West Coast games on like TNT or TBS or something like that back in the day. But anyway, anything else about ESPN before we jump on over?
Nope, nothing.
All right. Well, the reigning national champion Ohio State had their defensive coordinator Coach Knowles leave Ohio State for the same job at a rival Penn State University, making $3 million per year. He had the number 1 defense in the country last year, winning a national championship, like I said, at Ohio State, jumping ship over to rival Penn State. Cottrell, I got to get your reaction first. What do you think of this move? Do you think it's something detrimental to Ohio State, or you think whatever, get out of town?
I really don't think neither, honestly. I would have loved to have Jim Knowles back. I mean, I think he's a great defensive mind, and he brought so much value to the team. With that said, though, I think it's a move for him that does make sense in the sense of Penn State offered him $3.1 million per year, which makes him the highest paid coordinator in all of college football. He's from that area. He's from Pennsylvania. So he's obviously has like the Penn State ties there. So I think that's more of a dream job for him. And then also just hearing, after the scenes, apparently everything really shifted after the Oregon game, ironically enough, the first time around. Jim Knowles had always had this stigma that he had these, at least at Ohio State, that he had these great defenses. But when we went up against great programs, they found a way to shut us every single time. So after the Oregon game the first time and Oregon scored 32 points in that game, there were some tough conversations had behind closed doors where a lot of egos got checked, whether it be Ryan Days, Jim Knowles, Larry Johnson, the defensive line coach. There were a lot of egos that, Ryan Day was like, hey, we got to figure this out. This can't keep happening time after time after time. So I do think that rift, played a part in that coaches room, as the season progressed. Obviously for Ohio State, it was a blessing in disguise because the defense really looked great every time after that. But at the same time, I think you can't just look at it from a money standpoint either, because I'm looking at it like now, ultimately he's making 3.1 as a base, which is great. He made a close to $3 million this past year with his base salary plus all the bonuses for, each game won going forward there. So, I mean, I honestly think this is something where I hate to see him go, but at the same time, it's a move that makes a ton of sense. So I don't necessarily hate him for it. It is one thing to stay in conference and go to your rival school and things like that, but I don't necessarily hate him for it, how I know some fans are kind of taking it.
What do you think, Bill?
I mean, I think the national championship softens the blow of this a little bit. And I think it lets a lot of people probably look at it with more of a clear head than they usually would in this situation. And again, championships do that. I was a little less shocked after I found out he was from PA. I didn't know that. But this, I think, kind of all got put into effect because of what happened with Penn State, if I'm being honest, when Tom Allen abruptly got up and quit as their DC and went down to Clemson. For kind of some of the same reasons, wanted to be in a warmer climate and closer to family. I think that allowed Penn State to be like, well, we can't be the one left without the DC. And I think, I'm not saying they overpaid for him, but they went uber aggressive after Jim Knowles. And, so I really do think it was kind of a downhill cause and effect thing. Listen, Cottrell, nailed a lot of this on the head. I mean, Ohio State's had great defenses the last 3 years. It just kind of came down to the big games where, they didn't perform well. And, stigma is kind of the right word for it. But now he won one, he left. There's different things coming out about how amicable it was. Like Cottrell said, there was apparently a closed door meeting. There was a lot of shouting and a lot of, other stuff going on. So maybe he, looked at it and was like, I came here and did what I wanted to do and time to kind of wash my hands and go somewhere else. So, it's a great hire by Penn State. Obviously, they've actually got pretty lucky the last couple of years the way everything's broke for them, because they had Manny Diaz and he got his head coaching job. And then they had Tom Allen, who got fired by Indiana, and they kind of fell into him, and now they got Jim Knowles. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens if Penn State, somehow, gets to the mountaintop next year and he wins back-to-back with two different Big Ten schools, rivals at that. That'll be a hell of a narrative to talk about. But, again, I think it's a good move for Penn State. I think it's a good move for Jim Knowles if that's really what he wanted to do. Have you guys named anybody yet? Are you promoting somebody? Are you guys going to hire somebody?
No, it's still a lot of talks right now. Potential to hire from within. Right now, our safeties coach, Matt Gagliari, he's been like the Jim Knowles disciple. Like, he was with him at Oklahoma State, and he's been the one underneath him. So a lot of talks about potentially making him like the code DC with Tim Walton, who's been there for forever, who's been a big part in like our recruiting cycle. So, Ohio State has a history of going co-DC. So if they hire from within, that's what's expected. But they're also looking outward where, there's been rumors about trying to see if Luke Fickell would be able to come back, if he'd be interested in leaving Wisconsin to come back, be the head coach. I don't think that happens, but there's been talks about that. There's also been talks of our former DC, whose name I can't remember right now, but I think he's the DC at Wisconsin. He was our DC during the 2014 national championship run. So Gerard Mayo's also been a name discussed just because of his connections with like Vrabel and from Ryan Day's time in NFL as well. So a lot of different rumors being floated out there, but they seem to be making a national search, but ultimately I got a feeling they just hire from within and kind of use this as like a calibration year in the sense of let's see how it shakes out, because they got to the table pretty late this year. Just with how the season went down and how many jobs have already been filled.
With the timing of everything, it seemed as if it was like almost like a pre-planned move, or they moved extremely quick on this deal. Do you think this was something that was maybe discussed before the season ended, or do you think this was just a move that made so much sense that they didn't want to waste any time?
Well, I don't think it really could have been discussed too much before the season ended, just because of, Penn State just lost their DC like the week before. So, Penn State was in the semis. So, I definitely think that there was, some conversations that were had, but also Oklahoma was a team that was very much in the mix for Jim Knowles. And, again, behind closed doors, kind of knew that there was some rifts between Jim Knowles and the rest of that Ohio State coaching staff after everything that happened. So you kind of knew that it would be a possibility, but it did move very fast. But I just think that if you're looking at it from a Jim Knowles standpoint, if Penn State is ultimately where you want to go, if you grew up being a Penn State fan and they offer you more money than anyone else has offered you so far, why not hurry up and sign the deal? Like, there's not much to think about if that's what you want to do,
I guess for me, it's just like we just won the national championship. Like, we just faced the long, grueling season, and we finally got where we needed to be. And, like, before you can even celebrate with your fans, your team at your home field, you already took another job, aren't even present for the college football, championship celebration. It just seems really rushed. It seems something that was just like has been in the plans for a little bit. Maybe Penn State's defensive coordinator might have said, "Hey, this is my plan." After they got eliminated in the first round, he may have let them know, or not the first round. After they got eliminated, he may have let them know what their plan was before he left. So it just feels like there was conversations happened before Ohio State's season was officially over. That's just from an outside perspective. It just seems the timing seems off. But we do have a fan question on the subject. And Justin wants to know if there's any credence to that he knows OSU and that will help Penn State beat them narrative. Do you think that will impact anything?
I personally do. I definitely think that will help. I don't, for what it's worth, we're going to get into it a little bit later. I've seen Jim Knowles for the last 3 years. His defense is incredible, but one, it takes time to get the guys to run his system. And two, it takes guys to learn it. It's very complex. The reason why Ohio State struggled in those big games was because the complexity of everything within that defense. It's tough to do when you're going up against great offenses. And usually in those big games, that's where those great offenses are. So I do think it will help Jim Knowles, depending on how long he is there. With that said, I don't think Penn State's defense necessarily takes a jump with him this year, because this year is the install year. He doesn't have his guys yet. He's already late to the portal. Like, he couldn't even help them pick out guys from the portal that would have potentially fit his scheme. And Penn State has a ton of talent, but I do think there will be some time that needs to be taken, because even with Ohio State, like, we didn't just go from having this bad defense with Kerry Combs and then being great all of a sudden with Jim Knowles. Like, yeah, they looked great in all the games they were supposed to, but again, in those bigger games, not even just necessarily the big ones, but even like, intermediate matchups, anybody ranked in the top 25, you saw chinks in the armor. So I think Penn State will be fine. And ultimately, long term, this definitely will help them beat Ohio State. But this upcoming year, I just don't know if it clicks right away, just because I've seen how long it's taken to, adapt to that Jim Knowles system.
Bill, anything else you want to throw in before we move on?
No, I mean, Cottrell, one of the things Cottrell's mentioned, it's, and you look at the teams that have had, top 5, top 10 defenses the last couple of years, and you look at, the Michigans, the Notre Dames, and Ohio States, and teams like that. A lot of these coordinators are, they're not installing basic college defenses anymore. Like, you look at like what Michigan's run the last 3 years. Like, they've installed an NFL style defense. Jim Knowles is very similar to that. You're asking these kids, like Cottrell said, to come on campus and go from playing basic 4-3 or 3-4 at high school and be like, all right, well, now, we're going to install, you have to learn an NFL defense. And it takes a while. It's not instant turnover. We've hired 3 straight people in a row from the Baltimore Ravens. And that's literally, that's the style that we've run. And it didn't click the first year, but after that it has. We've been top 10 nationally for the last 4 years, but it takes time. So yeah, like I think you'll see certain new things out of Penn State next year, which I think will excite their fans. But at the same time, you're going to see the blown coverages, the collapses in certain areas, and be like, what the F? But like, that's part of the growing pains of installing a complicated system that will pay off down the road. So it'll be interesting to see, because we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but they are kind of in the proverbial it's time to get it done slot next year. So, because if they don't, it'll be a couple years probably before they get another crack at it.
All right. Well, I guess only time will tell. Obviously, it's a huge move for both programs. We'll definitely keep an eye on where Ohio State's going to be going as far as for the defensive coordinator position, and we'll see what Penn State can bring out next season on the field. But to go on to the next, some more interesting news around the college football playoff is that the college football playoff, they are rumored to be discussing neutral replay system for all college football games. And the officials are actually meeting to talk about that here soon. And basically what's going to happen is essentially there would be no challenges. There would be a neutral team on site or off site. That's to be discussed, where all plays are reviewed without challenges needing to be forced. Do you feel like that is needed? Do you feel like this is something that that maybe is not necessary for this yet in the program? Do you think we're kind of throwing too many corks into the program? Or do you think this is something that might be needed?
For me, I feel like it's just a little too much. Challenges, I think, are a good thing, because you limit it. I know they're different from how like the NFL does it per se, but you're limiting these coaches to two challenges a game. And I mean, we already have replay in a sense. You have the teams that, well, not teams, but the refs that go back and look at a targeting call. You have refs that go back and check, like, okay, we're going to go to an official's timeout to see if this was a catch or not. So like, in reality, why are we going to be like nitpicking the game? I think this is just something that's going to slow the game down and really just, I'm not going to say cause lack of interest, but you're already having this issue within the college game. And not to mention, I immediately go back to the Texas and Arizona State game, where you go to replay, you look at a targeting call, and you ultimately determine that it's not targeting. So if we're just going to have this outside officials group come in and review these plays, like, I worry that we slow the game down and then we still get the calls wrong, because we're just going to default to what was called on the field because it's a questionable thing here. So for me, I don't think – I think the NCAA ultimately and the College Football Playoff Committee, they're trying to fix something that's not broken as it stands right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think I don't want what the NFL has, because the NFL gets in these like ruts in a certain game if something happens where like they run 3 plays in like 5 minutes, and I don't want that. I think if anything, the answer is they can watch everything. Obviously, turnovers and all that stuff automatically get reviewed anyway. If anything, I would just broaden the scope of what the college coaches could challenge. That's what I think they need to do, and I think that's what they need to do in the NFL as well. And I think if you do that, you don't hurt the pace of the play. Like Cottrell said, you're getting you get 2 a game. So if you burn them, it doesn't get to the point where coaches can sit there and just keep throwing their challenge flags all night long for every other thing. So it's got to be something that they're pretty sure about, or at least have a decent chance of winning. And I would go from there. I mean, I would not. I don't, like I said, I don't want to go to the NFL model where people are constantly buzzing down and you just take all the momentum and the flow out of the game too often. So I would, I think targeting should automatically be reviewed every time. Sometimes it feels like it's not, but other than that, I mean, the big one with everybody's pass interference. I don't think we can go down that slope, because I think I feel like it's holding. I feel like if you really want to call it every play, you probably can. If you're letting wide receivers and the defensive backs battle, and you're that judge and you want to let them play and you think it's fair, I don't think we need to start replaying entire routes every single time. Like, oh, he touched him there, because like I said, you'll find something in slow motion replay that you could probably call it every single time. So I've heard a lot of people talk about that. I do not want that. I think that's still.
I think college does it right, though. I mean, you get the pass interference call. It's like, hey, it's not as detrimental as it is in the NFL, because you only get 15 yards. So while teams obviously you don't want to just give up 15, but if it's a questionable PI call, like I feel like it doesn't change the landscape of the game like how it would at the NFL level. So I think that's one thing that college actually does right, and I think they do a good job for the most part about being consistent with the penalties there. Because I mean, for me, I think a large majority of the playoff, we saw that they were letting them be physical. Mm-hmm. Like the receivers are being physical, the corners are being physical, and for the most part, I think they did a pretty good job of policing the pass interference side of things.
I agree. Like I said, that's why I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it with pass interference. I think it'll just become a debacle. So, like I said, I think they need to tweak it. I don't think they need an overhaul. Like I said, I don't want the NFL model. I would literally I would expand a little bit of what coaches can look at and not look at, and then go from there. Let the kids keep playing.
Yeah, and one of our fans, Travis, here was asking, do they have does soccer have this much, replays? And to answer that question, the answer is yes. There was a game a week ago that was actually canceled because fans were causing chaos due to a VR call not being reversed as it should. So, replays in sports is being debated at every single level, whether it be from baseball, soccer, football. I mean, hockey, it does not matter. People want to get calls right. And I think that the college football playoff was an example of opportunities where we could have gotten some things right that we didn't. So I think that this definitely needs to be discussed. I don't know if it'll be implemented. They're also talking about implementing it in week 0 as well to test it before the college football playoff next year. So that'll be interesting to see if that ends up going through. But like I said, they will be discussing it soon, and it could be implemented as soon as week 0 for a test.
You say that, the college football playoff, like there could have been calls that changed. Like, what would you like are there any that come to mind for you?
Well, that targeting call with Texas, Arizona,
but that got reviewed though. They got reviewed and they got it wrong. So like, it's not like it was a lack
I'm just saying, I'm like there was that one. I'm trying to think of an exact moment between all the games, but I'm not coming with one specific.
But and it's not even to put you on the spot. But like, I think for me though, like that just shows that like there was. I know I'm not even trying to do that now. Like for me, I think that just shows like there. I mean, of course, there are going to be bad calls in every game. I think that's. In a sense, like you don't want to be a part of football, but that's part of football. It's going to happen from time to time. But I don't think there was anything like egregious outside of that one that actually went to replay that were like game altering calls. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you may have had a hole where it's like, oh, that probably shouldn't have been a hole, but it wasn't like that game altering thing, like how the targeting, like if they didn't review the targeting at all, then I may be singing a different tune right now. I'd be like, hey, maybe we do need more review. Maybe we need an outside organization to buzz down and say, hey, we got to take a look at this because this was an egregious miss here that ultimately potentially cost Arizona State advance to the next round of the playoff. But that wasn't the case this time around. You know, it went to replay. They still got it wrong. Everybody in the world saw it and was like, it's textbook targeting. Crown, launching, helmet to helmet, defenseless receiver. Like it hit literally every single criteria, and they still got it wrong. So I think that's ultimately kind of why I say they're doing it fine right now. But, I mean, I guess time will tell.
Anything else you want to throw in there, Bill?
No, I'm good.
Sounds good. Well, we're going to jump over to some fun news. There was actually football this week in the college football ranks. Thursday, we had the East-West Shrine game, which we're going to discuss a little bit. And then later on today, we actually have the Senior Bowl, which is going to be exciting and fun to watch. Did you guys get a chance to watch that East-West Shrine game on Thursday?
I haven't watched the game itself. I've seen a lot of practices from both the East-West Shrine and from the Senior Bowl as well. Usually that's really what I like to tune in more to see, because I think the All-Star games is more so for fun and just, you know, get those guys competing, things like that. But I think evaluation wise, the practices are much more in depth, and I think you get to see a lot more with the practices in itself.
I'm actually like a child. I almost enjoy the practices and watching the interviews and seeing all the, you know, the one-on-one drills and stuff like that more so than the game. You know, it's kind of like watching a mini like college combine, you know, kind of like the NFL does it. I didn't get to see much of the game yet. I did record it. I got to watch it, but I was watching the practices online and stuff like that. You know, we were talking about them in the group chat a little bit, but it was fun to follow certain players, obviously, and see how they were gonna work out. And like I said, the one-on-one drills is one thing they do, which is really nice because you see running backs go against linebackers, wide receivers constantly against corners or safeties. So you get a good judge of, you know, where these kids are at and getting ready for the draft. So it's always fun. You know, I wish it was a little bit. I would say this. I would say even 10 years ago, it was a way bigger deal than it is now. It's kind of lost a little bit of its luster because so many kids just, you know, get done college, declare, and then, you know, work out with, you know, personal coaches to get ready for the combine. And they don't want to risk getting hurt. So I remember, especially in the 90s, like, you know, you would watch, you know, the East-West Shrine game, and it would be like it would look like a Pro Bowl of college football. Like you would have so many big names in it. Like everybody wanted, you know, they were hoping they would get invited. You would see kids that would get pissed off that they didn't get in. And it's definitely lost a little bit of its shine because of, you know, just the way everybody prepares for the combine now. But still a good watch. Like I said, it's, you know, usually you have somebody at least from one of your favorite teams there that you can at least watch and pull for. So I definitely watched enough of it this week to enjoy it. I just didn't get to see the game yet.
Control, any reactions on the Senior Bowl later on today? Anybody you're excited to see kind of go out there and play one last time?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I got some guys actually that I've been seeing like from the one-on-ones and stuff, and you know, I had to put some notes in because I think a couple of them have earned the right to have a film breakdown, you know, later on in the year, you know, once
Mike Green.
Once the show comes back on. Mike Green is 1,000% one of them. He's definitely one of the guys on my list that I definitely will be reviewing. And then I also have Emmanuel Pregnon from USC. He's an interior guy from the offensive line, center guard kind of person there. Tez Johnson from Oregon has been incredible at the Senior Bowl. No one's been able to guard him. Kyle Williams, receiver from Washington State, he's also been incredible. Those have been definitely the two best receivers there. And then on the defensive line side, you also have Darius Alexander, defensive tackle from Toledo. Obviously, we also had, Mike Green. We just talked about him. And then the other one, probably my favorite guy from the entire Senior Bowl, 5'11", like 270-pound center from North Carolina, Willie Lampkin. He's a guy who's been holding his own there. Obviously, you get all these freaks from all over the country, from Georgia. Ole Miss has had Walter Nolan and Prince there, like all these big-time defensive ends, defensive tackle, and Willie Lampkin has been there just holding things down. So, I mean, those have been a lot of the guys that I've been having fun watching. Gray Zabel's another one, North Dakota State offensive lineman. That's been incredible, but ton of guys, a ton of talent, and you see it year in and year out with the Senior Bowl. Ton of guys make their money, and last year I did the breakdown on Quinyon. I was high on Quinyon before he went to the Senior Bowl. He was probably like an end of the first round kind of guy. Ultimately ended up going, towards the back half of that first round, but has been an absolute star with the Eagles this year. I'm sure Bill can attest to that. But I mean, the Senior Bowl, if you perform well at the Senior Bowl, that's really an indicator that at the next level, you're ready to make plays there.
All right, Bill, anything else you want to add on about All-Star Week? Just in case you did not get a chance to watch it. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to Bill, do you know who won the East West Shrine game?
I do not.
Do you care?
No, I mean, if you want to break it down, go ahead. I'm going to watch it regardless.
Yeah, we're going to watch it regardless. Obviously, it's that East absolutely dominated the West. It was 25-0, one of the first shutouts in the last few years. It was kind of like I said, a one-man show. Actually, not one-man show, one-team show. East really showed up. West did not show up. I'm excited for the Senior Bowl tonight. See Dylan Gabriel take the field one more time. Jeffrey Bassa. Just like you said, Tez Johnson. I mean, I think they're all going to really shine for the opportunity to play today. What is that time? What time is that game at today? 4 p.m. Eastern time?
4. Yep.
4 Eastern time. So I know I'll be on the couch watching that. It'll be nice to see the seniors get a chance to play one more time. I like seeing Dylan Gabriel, even though he was a Duck this year, celebrating the 3 facets of his college career with UCF, Oklahoma, and Oregon being celebrated on his helmet. Isn't the first time that multiple teams have been on a helmet, but it's the first time that they've had 3. So that was pretty sick to see. I'm glad that he was able to kind of represent all 3 schools because he had quite a journey on his college football journey. Anything else on news, though, you guys want to discuss before we kind of jump over to our next topic?
Your boy Tyler Shuff's been also lighting it up at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I've heard of that, but you know what? He's whatever. Whatever. He's old news.
He left, and now you just hate him. That's crazy.
Well, he had to jump to like 17 schools to get his opportunity, so I'm glad Louisville really helped him out. But no, hey, that's a program that as a quarterback I would love to go to. That's why Miller Moss went there this next year. Louisville's got great quarterback coaches and have developed great quarterbacks at the next level. So good for him for balling out, because as a former Duck, I want him to succeed. Just he wasn't good enough to do it with us.
Oh, now when I say that, you guys give me all the shit in the world about Kyle McCord. Now Alex gets to say that about Tyler.
First off, Kyle McCord is a blessing to Syracuse, and whatever NFL team drafts him, Super Bowl the next 10 years. All right.
So a little bit of breaking news here. I just want to get Cottrell's instant reaction here. Ohio State offensive line coach Justin Fry is leaving the program to take the same position with the Arizona Cardinals.
That's really Justin Fry. He's a good offensive line coach. He's an absolutely awful recruiter. Needed some fresh blood in there. A lot of people were calling for him. David Sanders was obviously the big time tackle this year that everybody wanted to get. We were at the table for Jordan Seaton the year prior. Didn't get that done. So I mean, I would have loved for Justin to stay on the staff, because he is good at what he does, like actually coaching those linemen. I mean, just look at this year. You lose a first round talent at tackle, and then you also lose the best center in the country in the same season, just weeks apart from each other. And you find a way to get the line to not only hunker down, but honestly look better than it did in the first half. So definitely going to be tough to replace, but at the same time, it'll be nice to get some fresh blood in there and see if things can change from the recruiting cycle side of things.
All right.
Where we go next?
We are headed off to, I believe,
got a new job. I mean, it's a low key perfect segue. Talking about jobs.
Talking about jobs. All right, well, let's go.
All right,
Who's
Alex.
up
Well,
first?
you are up. Bill, I
Wow.
don't know if you wanna intro what we're doing here, but
so this is what we're going to do. So I mean, this is how I looked at it. I mean, you guys might looked at it differently or weighed things differently, but we talked about it for the last couple of weeks. We said if every job in the country came open, what would the top 10 jobs in the country be? I weighed a lot of stuff. Again, I'm sure you guys had different categories of what you put emphasis on, and and we all came up with top 10 lists. I'm sure there's going to be homerism here across the board, as there probably should be. But it'll be interesting to see, how much. But obviously, like I weighed in academics, obviously the fan base, money, NIL, alumni funding, all that good stuff, location, facilities, all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see where these all come down to. But I think Alex is going to lead us off with our top 10 here. Yeah.
Yes, everybody, feast your eyes on the 10 best jobs in the country. Please take them in. Get your criticism in your mind ready to go. What, Bill? What are you thinking? Why are you covering your eyes like that? Tell me more.
Not even just go.
No, Bill. I got to hear before I start because I want to hear your objections.
I'm not even upset that you put Oregon number one. I expected that.
Good.
Me and Contrella probably in the same boat. The fact that you've SMU two
at 2
is blasphemous. But just go ahead.
Hey, I have great reasons for SMU, but no, we're going to start with Georgia. All right, Georgia has a great culture at their football school.
What?
Great recruiting.
They have a great what?
Culture.
What do they have?
They have a winning culture.
Okay, hey, say that next time. Say that next. I don't want anybody to
correct myself. I was going to correct myself.
I just don't want anyone out there. I don't want anyone out there to think
button?
that we condone the Georgia culture. That's all.
Bro,
I just wanted to make sure that was out there. I got in a
Facebook argument 2 weeks ago with people about if they should go to Georgia or Notre Dame. I had a huge discussion with people while Notre Dame is better because anyway.
That's fine. I was just trying to save you, Alex. That's all. I just wanted you to
I don't need you to save me.
You know what?
Captain
all right,
save
fine.
a hoe over there. Anyway, Georgia, like I said, great recruiting pipeline. They have a tradition of winning. The reason why I do have Georgia at the bottom of my list is because if you were to take over that job, it's kind of like taking over that Bama job, which is sitting at 9. You're taking over that job from somebody that had a lot of success, big shoes to fill, and also changing the culture at Georgia, not the winning culture, but the culture outside of the locker room would take a lot of effort, a lot of work to do. You'd have to have the entire staff, the entire school, and all of the student athletes on board with you as well. There's been too many incidents at Georgia where people have been arrested for assault, drunk driving, other car incidents. So that's a huge culture change that would need to be made. Other than that, I think Georgia's got a great opportunity to give you success. It's a hot transfer portal destination. It's a hot recruiting destination. So Georgia's my number 10. I have Alabama at 9 for most of the same reasons. I think I do put them ahead of Georgia because they don't have as much of a dysfunctional culture outside of the locker room. I think Nick Saban really laid out the groundwork of how you can be successful there. The fact that Nick Saban was, wanted to stick around and still be an advisor to the university when they were transitioning Kalen DeBoer, that says what kind of program it is. They really want you to succeed. They're not going to fire you after 1 year. It's somewhere you can go in, build off of success of the past, and build success for your own in the future. I look at Notre Dame at number 8. I don't look at Notre Dame as the opportunity. If I'm a football coach, I'm not going to Notre Dame as my final stop. Everybody at Notre Dame has used Notre Dame as kind of that next stepping stone to the better job. You got Kelly over at LSU. You got Charlie Weiss used it to get to the NFL. Who knows? This might be Marcus Freeman's dream job, but who knows if he'll use this opportunity to catapult him to the next step in his career. Like I said, Notre Dame with no conferences. You pretty much get to pick your own schedule. All the money that you earn by making the college football playoff, bowl games, all that gets to get put right back in your program and not shared with conferences. There's a great history, great tradition at Notre Dame as well. And then we got Florida. Florida, obviously, like I said, from early 2000s, their heyday was not far. It's not far. It's not a lot far off, or not long. Yeah, I cannot talk today, y'all. But no, Florida is one of those programs where, like I said, I think that there's a lot of opportunity being in that southern part of the country for great recruiting. Obviously, it's a great name brand. I would be utilizing the past alumni to utilize my recruiting efforts there. Same with USC, using Reggie Bush. You got the LA Sunshine. You got out of all the California schools, USC is probably one of the most money happy schools. I think they made, what was that, $22.6 billion or $2.6 billion in revenue in the athletic department last year alone. Ohio State, great success, long tradition of success. Obviously, they operated in the negative this year as far as income. That just shows how far the university is willing to go to win a national championship. And if I'm coaching the program, I want a school that's willing to go broke for me. Clemson, made the college football playoff this last year, has been kind of the front runner on the ACC, and that school does not utilize the transfer portal at all. I believe they got one player this season, and they still made the college football playoff last year. So if I were to take over Clemson, I would utilize the past success and be able to utilize NIL and the transfer portal to boost that program up, and we wouldn't be a bottom feeder of the ACC or being eliminated in the first round of the college football playoff. If I had the opportunity at the position. And then we got Texas. Texas is one of those programs, especially the last few years, back-to-back college football playoff semifinals. You got Arch Manning. The type of loyalty Arch Manning is showing to Texas really shows, I think, the type of players that Texas really brings in. Even when Quinn Ewers was under, a microscope, with his playing style, with his injuries, Arch Manning's playing well. He ended up going to pros instead of transferring out. I just think it says a lot about the culture of Texas. Feel free to chime in if you guys have anything to argue about.
I'm waiting until the end.
Yeah, I'm everybody in the comments, everybody's just waiting for this next one.
I know. And now here we are, y'all. And I rushed through everybody to get here. Number 2, SMU. They just became part of the ACC from the AAC. Their boosters raised $200 million for the move to the ACC in a week. The SMU is not getting revenue from the TV deal for the first 9 years they're in the conference. What does that tell you? That tells you there is money flowing at SMU. Money will never be an issue for you. They got, in the 80s, they were called the Southern Millionaires University. And if I'm a coach, I'm going to SMU 1 year in the ACC, already have a already have a college football playoff berth. They're getting great recruits in the transfer portal. The ACC is down, and money is absolutely unlimited. One of their donors straight said, it's a couple $100 million. What do I care? And that is the kind of mindset I want behind me if I'm leading the program. And then obviously, number 1, we got the Oregon Ducks, Nike money. They have the absolute best facilities in the country. They're the best fans in the country. They're one of the loudest stadiums in the country, even though it only holds 56,000 or whatever it is. And over the last 10 years, they are one of the most successful programs in the country. And Dan Lanning shows why he's there. Dan Lanning shows why he does not want to leave there. And that's exactly where I'd want to end up if I had my choice of college jobs. And that's my top 10.
All right, Alex. You said one thing about SMU that I don't want to get glossed over here. Do you know why they had to make so much money back in the day, why they were considered, the millionaires of college football?
Yeah, they had the death threat. Not the death threats. They had the death sentence. They had all that good stuff.
Yeah, because they were paying their players. They had to have enough money to field together football teams. Exactly. That was against the rules and killed their entire program.
Yes, and then NCAA came around and said, you know what? This is the way we should be doing things. And guess what? Now SMU's back in business and making plays. You're living in the past, Cottrell.
I'm not living in the past. I'm saying
you are. You're talking about the 80s.
You can't. You brought it up. You said they used to be called the Southern Millionaires
University. And guess what? They still are, because they just raised $200 million. You're arguing with me about, they paid their players in the 80s. Who gives a crap? Because guess what? Now you can. You can pay them.
I'm fine with them. I'm saying that I'm not going to hang my hat on or bring up their history of what they used to do. Like if you said everything else you said and not had the Southern Millionaires University thing in there, And I'd be like, all right, I mean, I don't agree, but at least I can understand it. But you can't bring up their history and what they used to do. Like there was some golden age when in reality they were literally cheating and got caught cheating, and it ruined their entire football program.
40 years ago. We're talking about now.
You brought it up.
All I said was they used to be called that, and then I moved on. You just hyper fixated on it, and it had to jump on something. No, I said that, and then I said that their benefactors raised $200 million in a week. This was just last year. So the 80s have nothing to do with any of my argument besides they used to be called the Southern Millionaires University. That's literally all I said, and then you just ran with it. So next argument that pertains to now. Why that's a bad number 2.
Anyone who takes SMU or Clemson's jobs over Ohio, honestly, any of the 5 through 10 need to be drug tested immediately.
Hey, man, it's personal preference, and I'm telling you, SMU is going to give you the leash to succeed. They're going to give you the money to succeed. Ohio State, I guess Ohio State gives you a pretty good leash, too, because Ryan Day hasn't beaten Michigan in 4 years, and he still happily has a job. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but no, SMU is going to give me the leash I need to be able to recruit properly, to be a successful program, and they're going to give me the money to do it. So
SMU is never going to recruit any team that's on the screen right now.
Okay.
Even with the money.
Okay. Sounds
good. Their facilities aren't anywhere near as good as any team that's on the screen.
For now.
Bro, Bill, you also have to keep in mind, this is a guy who's a fan of Oregon. Ultimate goal isn't to win a national championship. It's about looking pretty, job stability, having your flash in the pan season, maybe getting to the playoff is fine. Maybe winning a game or two is fine. Like this isn't a guy with national championship aspirations. So we have to think about who we're dealing with here. He's never been to the mountaintop.
I've been to the mountaintop twice. We just didn't get to the tip.
So you haven't been there.
I haven't been there.
Been there 3 times now.
You see it, like you're right on that last ledge. You look up, you're like, it's right there, and you just run out of everything you need.
You're literally saying you're literally.
I better get the same. I better get the same energy. I better get the same energy for Cottrell and Bill's list. Is all I'm saying. Coming on my list like this.
I promise. I can't speak for Cottrell's list.
I welcome it.
I can't speak for Cottrell's, but I know damn well I don't have SMU on my list over.
At least my list is original and not going to be the same 10 teams, just in different order.
Hey,
you're going to have pretty much the same 9 teams as the rest of us. You put SMU over. You're saying SMU is a better job
at least,
than Michigan or Penn State or a couple other teams.
Absolutely, bro. You're going to be in a nice, warm climate. You're not going to be suffering through the cold. Like, come on. Yes. What do you think Penn State's defensive coordinator left Penn State to get warmer climate? Like, I'm in agreement.
He's old, bro. It has nothing to do with players.
I didn't say players. I said Coach Cottrell was just saying how he left.
If SMU could spend $200 million in a season,
to his family and better weather. Cottrell just said that 20 minutes ago. I can rewind the tape.
If SMU has all this money, why haven't they already built all these new facilities? If they can raise $200 million in a week, what the hell are they waiting for?
Because you have to get building approvals. You have to get fucking plans made up. You have to actually build the buildings.
All these millionaires can't get some permits moved faster.
It's been a year.
All this power and money.
It's been 18 months since they moved to the ACC.
Oh, they just got the money now? No, they haven't had the money for years and years and years.
They had a death sentence. And they were in an AAC conference that was going nowhere. Now they're making the moves, moving to the ACC, paying $220 million to make that move, taking no revenue for 9 years from TV. And they made the college football playoff in the first year.
Maybe I would tell you it's not that.
Alex,
I love that good of a job.
Alex, I love that you were ready. You were ready for this. Like you knew it was coming. You were ready. I love that.
Heck yeah, I'm ready. I didn't make this list. I took all day thinking about this damn list. Like, you know what? Who am I going to put?
It's the audacity you put him to.
I'm with you, Bill.
He's just mad at
Michigan. If you put him,
he's just mad Michigan's not here.
If you put him 10, I'm like, hey,
yeah, all right, yeah.
You know what?
Coming from, I get it. You
put him question. Is this Alex Cottrell?
You put him 2 in front of the Texas program.
Is this Alex Bill and Cottrell's list or just Alex's list?
We're just telling you why it's wrong. That's all.
But you can't be wrong with opinions. It's impossible.
I mean, we're arguing opinions on the on the back of we think these are factual.
They are factual.
Usually put them in front of Texas, which has the
Yeah,
second biggest endowment in the entire country.
that
Like
is
they
fine.
dwarf the amount of money that SMU has.
That is fine. Yeah, for now, that's fine. That's fine. The amount of money I can
Longhorns
raise
people
at
losing their
SMU,
money.
dude. At SMU, I make one phone call. I got 100 mil. I got 100 mil I can use. Texas, I gotta make like 400.
Oh my god, that's
I
not
know it's chump change to Texas.
Texas, bro. They started their
I'm
own
talking
sports
about-
network. Do you realize that?
I don't care. Matthew McConaughey
Yeah,
is overrated. Thank you, Justin.
That's false too. That's just that might be the worst thing you've ever said. But
Okay, we know it. That's enough on my list. Let's look at Bill Cottrell's list so we can criticize everything that they want to do with their lives.
Hey, keep that energy. I welcome it because I think I'm next here.
I'm pretty sure
I
you
believe
copy and
so.
pasted the top 10 job from ESPN.com or something. Yep.
No. Nope, absolutely not. This is a very much an original list here. Number 10 for me. A lot of the reasons why Alex apparently has Oregon and SMU 1 and 2 there. You talk about job stability. Iowa might be the most job secured spot in the entire country. You're telling me you could stay at a job for 25 plus years, win 2 Big Ten championships, lose every big game every season, go like 8-4, and still make $7 million a year? Sign me up for that every single time. They got a great stadium, they got great fans, they got great tradition, and there's no expectations there, and I get to make $7 million every single year. Yeah, that's a top 10 job in the country to me. If I don't have to improve, I know I'm not getting fired. I can stay as long as I want to. I don't have to ever have a quarterback in. It can be the same rinse and repeat. We fail every year. We have great defense. We can't figure it out on offense. We can't beat great teams. But you know what? You're still making $7 million every year. Sign me up for that every single time. Iowa's for sure a top 10 job in the country for me. Coming in at number 9, you got USC. They bring in a ton of money. You're out in sunny Los Angeles. You have the recruits. You have the tradition. I mean, you also have the stadium. Everything about USC is exciting. I think it's a job where if you're looking at it from a football standpoint, you're going to get every single thing you need to be successful on the football field. Rich tradition, facilities great. USC is just an absolutely great job. Number 8, moving on, got Penn State. From a football standpoint, Penn State's going to be one of those blue bloods there where always are going to be great. And also, you got to look at it from a money standpoint as well. They just went out and paid Jim Knowles all that money because they are in a win now mindset. I think Penn State, with their tradition of history, what they can bring in recruit-wise, and just what they're going to do for you every single year, Penn State has to be a top 10 job in the country. Number 7 for me, I got Texas A&M. Now, you may be saying Texas A&M hasn't had any success on the football field in terms of winning big games, things like that. Well, I don't look at it from that standpoint. I look at it as they shelled out all the money that they can to have the number 1 recruiting class back in 2022. So if I'm a coach, I know they're going to pay for whatever players I need to bring in to have, the type of team that I want to have. And that's what I would find intriguing as a coach. Like, if you let me bring in all my guys and say, hey, we're going to give you the team you want, you got to find a way to win. Sign me up for that. Great fan base, great stadium, all the new facilities, the Adidas contract, you get the great uniforms. A&M, phenomenal job, but a big portion of that is because of the money, that oil money that they'll have coming in. Number 6, go on to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a school with tremendous history. And I think, honestly, Marcus Freeman, he didn't make this job, but I think he made it more attractive than I originally viewed it as. Notre Dame is a team that's going to have, a ton of money to spend within the NIL, another school with rich tradition. But now they're adding in that football success as well. Brian Kelly famously said that, you can't win a national championship at Notre Dame. And Marcus Freeman just came in and, obviously he didn't win it this past year, but, 3 seasons at Notre Dame, and he's already been to a national championship game. And it seems like the sky is going to be the limit for that Notre Dame team. So definitely seems like a great job there. Number 5 for me is going to be Michigan, and I put a little asterisk at the top there. One is, you know, a little comedic relief there, but 2 is I think that's a top 5 job right now. I mean, I think a lot of things need to come out, obviously, like with the allegations and what's going to ultimately be the penalty there. So if that changes, you know, and they have to sit out a bowl game or potentially lose out on scholarships, things like that, I think that could change the ranking. But as it sits right now, with the money that Michigan has devoted to NIL, the donors they have, obviously the tradition there, and great stadium, good fan base for the most part, and just what they do, what they're able to bring in talent wise year in, year out, has to be a top 5 program. Wild that, as much as I hate him, wild that Alex didn't even have him on his list.
With all the chaos going on right there.
But moving on, number 4, Texas. Just talked about them. They got all the money in the world. They will do, again, anything and everything you need them to do. Sark said, hey, I need to get some money. Go out and get me a quarterback. I'll bring Quinn Ewers home, make sure he gets the NIL deal he wants. I'll get Arch Manning to say he wants to play here. Give him the NIL deal he wants to, and I'll make sure you get a winner. He's gone to the semis back-to-back years there, and really it's only been a 3-year turnaround. And it felt like for 15 years we kept asking the question, is Texas back? Is Texas back? Is Texas back? All you need to do is get the right coach. They're going to shell out the money for you, and you're going to have all the success in the world. So I think that's awesome. Well, I have them at number 4 here, but I think all 3 of the teams that I have ahead of them, they do it in a different fashion. They have better uniforms, and at the end of the day, they also have just the success on the field there. So I'll move on to number 3 here, Oregon. You get the Phil Knight money, you get the uniforms, you get the fan base, you get Autzen Stadium. I mean, I think it's all a phenomenal thing to have there. And then you also have the fact that it is not a championship or bust kind of job there. You know, you cannot win a championship there for 10 years. As long as you keep having success and bring in the money, you're going to have some job stability there as well. So you don't have to have the monkey on your back and win a national championship. And if you do ultimately win a national championship there, you're in Oregon allure literally forever, because you're going to be remembered as the first coach to ever win a national championship with that football team. So Oregon job coming in at number 2 for me. Though coming in number 3 for me. Moving on to number 2, LSU. I look at LSU, the stadium. I'd argue that, as far as home field advantages go, you could argue that they're the number 1 best home field advantage team there is out there. I think with LSU as well, the way that they have structured their NIL deal, they were really the first ones to run with this, and not even just with their football program. I honestly think it is a crime that LSU has not made the college football playoff at this point. I mean, just look at the NFL ranks. You get Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Jaden Daniels also on that team. Like, you have guys all across the board everywhere that were up for these offensive awards this past season. Defensively, they've had great players as well. So in the Brian Kelly era, not being to a national championship or college football playoff is absolutely freaking wild to me. But they give you everything you need there. And that's a school that I would 100% want to be at, because we see when it's done right, they'll win the big ones. And they rich tradition of having the best prospects, having a ton of talent at the receiver position. So, I mean, that's just phenomenal job. But number 1 for me has to be Ohio State. Of course, it's a homer pick, but it's also a pick that, makes a ton of sense, I think, everywhere else as well. Alex brought up the point that they're willing to spend whatever it takes to make sure that they can compete for a national championship. And I view that as a good thing. They recruit the right way in terms of like getting the best players. They have a good staff there already with Heartline and all that there. Plus, just knowing that every single year, especially at this point moving forward, I'm going to get the benefit of the doubt as far as rankings go. Ohio State was never going to get left out of the playoff this year, where I feel like if you're a somewhat smaller program with the same losses, you may get looked at a little bit differently. So you always get the benefit of it out there. And I mean, it's also really simple. I said it for about Ryan Day this year. You beat Michigan and win the national championship, you're good in Ohio State ties. You're always going to have however much money you need to go get whatever talent you want. And they're going to let you run the football program exactly the way you want to, not to mention they got the best fans in the land. So that's why I'm rolling with Ohio State, #1 job in the country.
Couldn't even pack your whole stadium for a natty celebration. Best fans.
So what happens when you have a big boy stadium, not a little one?
Yeah, we had 40,000, so Alton would have looked like it was.
Yeah, you're
still wouldn't have filled up Austin.
Damn near
full.
Alton wouldn't have had. You got to also think Alton wouldn't have had the entire stadium full, because I know you've never had this before, so I'll like paint the picture for you. But you got to set up a stage. You're not going to have people sit behind the stage because they can't see anything from there. You also have people on the field because, well, at least at Ohio State, they had their students on the field celebrating from there. So I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Once you get there one day, you kind of get to see it, but it's not what you think as far as like parade goes or natty celebration goes.
Whatever. Your list. You know what? I do like the Iowa ad. I do like that.
You can go a little off the rails if you put them at 10 and make a case for it. Your case for SMU would have been great at number 10 or maybe even number 9.
Again, though, this was our jobs. I'm not picking jobs for Bill. I'm not picking jobs for Cottrell. I'm picking jobs for Alex. Alex wants to go to SMU.
All right, well, let's Alex, we gave you the energy. Give me the energy back. Where's the criticism here? From
Ohio State at 1 is terrible, but it's a homer pick. I can respect it.
Coaching the defending national championships is a terrible pick for number 1. You can't argue it at number 1.
No.
Crickets.
I can't argue it right now, but you couldn't argue Oregon at number 1 either.
I mean, I have them at 3. Like, I'm fine that you picked Oregon. I mean, I disagree with it, but I can hear it. You said
I feel like you looked at a list. I feel like you threw Iowa in at 10. Other than that, I feel like the list is like off the internet. Like these are like the typical teams.
So is other than SMU, so is yours.
Yeah, like find me a list that this matches, Alex, and I'll give you credence, because I didn't even look at any jobs.
And like I said, like 7 or 8 of these should be on every list anyway. If you're doing it with any kind of knowledge and actually an unbiased opinion, like
Alex, you put Clemson at 4. Said they don't use the portal and said it's a great job, and they were a first round exit.
If you listen, this just tells me how much you do not listen when I speak. Because
you said you can go in and use the portal. Maybe the reason why Dabo doesn't use the portal is because his staff and the people that utilize the money don't let him. Maybe that's a reason.
No, it's because he doesn't know how to ask for money politely and get a yes. People don't have faith in him, so they're not willing to give him the money to do so, and he's still able to find success. So no, it'd be very.
So you're saying easy. That they don't give Dabo money, but you think that you're going to go into Clemson, they're just going to give you whatever money you ask for?
If they're getting rid of Dabo, then they would be wanting to turn a new leaf with Clemson and start and try something new. So yes, they would. They wouldn't give it to Dabo if they want to keep doing shit the same way.
So you're going off of hopes and dreams.
It's not hopes and dreams. Dabo is one of the most winning coaches at Clemson in Clemson's history. Just got into the college football playoff. If that job were to become open, it would be because Clemson would be changing how they run things, not because of Dabo not doing the job right. So they would be embracing, and I would only take the job with the promise of them embracing that.
I'm taking all 10 of these jobs as is. You don't have to change anything. As is, I'm taking them right now.
You're taking them right now. You're taking USC as it is right now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They let
Iowa
no
offense as it is right now.
Again, job security. Absolutely. I'm taking that job tomorrow. USC.
Texas A&M. They just spent all the money to get the number 1 recruiting class in the country and did shit with it.
Oh, that's not the school, though.
That is precisely my point, though. That's precisely my point right there. They have the roster. They didn't fill it out with after coaching and all that stuff. If I'm a coach, I get to change how everything looks on the field.
Exactly.
I'm saying everything around it elsewhere.
My argument with Clemson, and you're telling me that I'm saying hopes and dreams.
No. You said your argument with Clemson was if they give you additional money. I'm saying all these schools have already given the money. All the
Oh,
schools
man.
they've already put the money in these guys' pockets. They already paid for their entire roster. They've already said, hey, you can build this new facility here, build it there. You can do whatever the hell you want to. Everything else is on the field results that I'm talking about.
Okay. Let's get Bill's list off before I start my morning in a pissed off mood.
Before you start, I think you're already there, buddy.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I'm going to start in Happy Valley for number 10. Penn State, great school, beautiful campus, has really good facilities, has a great alumni base, especially in this area, obviously. The one thing, as gorgeous as the campus is, the one thing that I think you've actually started to hear the last couple of years is Penn State is in the middle of nowhere, and it does. I think it takes a certain kid to, want to go play there. They know they're going to play in the cold. But again, they're going to play in, debatably the best home atmosphere in the country. But it's, you are kind of stuck there. There's not a lot around Penn State. But other than the location, again, I think they need to up their NIL effort a little bit. But it's a blue blood program, no matter how you slice it. There's no way it can't be in your top 10. I started there for number 10. Number 9, Georgia, I think is jumped up on this list because of the last 10 years. Because of Kirby Smart and the winning culture there, not the actual culture. But, you're starting to see it a little bit with the SEC teams. They don't have necessarily the money that a lot of people think they do. Again, Georgia's a good brand. It's been revived because of Kirby Smart and there's 2 national championships. Very easy to get kids to go there. Not a terribly hard academic school to get into. You can take that for what it's worth. Again, good weather, warm for the most part, unless they get one of those random winter storms where, nobody knows what to do. But Georgia is absolutely, I don't know if I would call it a traditional blue blood, but it's probably still a blue blood program. 8, USC, the team we were just talking about. If you're a head coach, I don't know what's much better. You get to go live in Southern California in a mansion. The money is absolutely going to be there. It's what you do with it. Great facilities outside. You're in Southern California, which is, some of the prettiest, natural place you could live in the country. Their alumni base is great. You always see the videos of Will Ferrell just showing up for practice or Snoop Dogg, people like that, Vince Vaughn. It's very easy to get to recruit there. It's a matter of what you do with it. I think, we're arguing a little bit over results for certain things. That's still not necessarily what the job is. That's what people are making of these jobs right now. There's no way that if you lined up all these schools, like I said, and they were all open, that people wouldn't flock to USC because of the weather and the money and their access. On top of everything else, you're getting to be the biggest school in California, which is debatably the richest state for recruits every single year. So number 8 for me. Number 7, Alabama. I think if we did these lists a couple years ago, Alabama would be higher on everybody's list for obvious reasons. Nick Saban was obviously a very big part of this school, coming back and being revitalized as it has been the last 20 years. Go all the way back to Bear Bryant. It was kind of the best, probably at that point, the best job you could get in the country. Kind of went away for a while. And Nick Saban completely put it back on the top of the mountain. But again, not as much money as people think in regards to alumni base and donors and stuff like that. They have the money to pay their coaches, get the kids in there and stuff like that. But Alabama gets, I would say, a little bit lucky with being in the South and not having to have the nicest facilities in the world because they're outside and stuff like that all the time. So number 7 for me, Alabama. Number 6, LSU, like Atrell said. It's a great job no matter how you slice it. Baton Rouge is a cool little town. I've been there numerous times. They got, Mike the Tiger exhibit. Very, very, very nice campus. Great stadium. Again, you're talking about 1A with Penn State and probably home atmosphere. Again, you're going to have every tool that you need to succeed to be, to go to LSU. The money is always going to be there. The kids that have graduated and come back, the list is, even in the last 10 years, it's a list of who's who great in the NFL right now. It's a great job. There's just no two ways about it. Again, SEC territory. Louisiana, believe it or not, is a hotbed for football prospects. It's right up there with Florida, Texas, and California. That kind of tells you, a little bit of something you need to know about how football is viewed in Louisiana in general. Top 5 for me. So we got a little bit closer, a little bit harder to distinguish. But number 5 for me is Oregon for sure. All the Nike money we've talked about with Phil Knight, great facilities. I think an underrated location up in Oregon. I think a lot. You're starting to hear the more people that go there. How gorgeous it is and how nice it is and how pretty it is to live out there. And commit to staying there for 4 years to play football. Fan base has gotten bigger and bigger. You could facilitate a lot of that to the success of the program, and also just getting more and more popular. You'll start to see Oregon stuff, further reaches out in the country. And again, that's a test to what they're growing out there. It's a great job. Austin Stadium is awesome for what it is. Again, it's not a knock on it. I think at some point they're gonna have to make it bigger. But regardless, great facilities. We always joke about the uniform thing, but you're talking to fickle 17 and 18-year-old kids, them getting recruited and be like, yeah, you're gonna get all this Nike stuff every week. It matters. It factors into what kids want to do. So Oregon, again, is a program that's still on the rise and not going anywhere anytime soon. Number 4 is Notre Dame. I have them a little bit higher than both you guys did, and a lot of that is because of their endowment. They're tied for one with the biggest endowment money-wise in the country with Michigan. The resources are there. They just don't like overpaying coaches. But as you've seen the last couple of years, I think with Marcus Freeman, you get the right guy in the right position, which I believe they do now. They're going to compete. It's a great academic school. It helps them and it hurts them in the same fold. There's certain kids that they can't recruit because they know they're not going to get admitted to the university, academically wise. But on the other side, all their student athletes are going to be very bright. They're going to be smart. They're going to understand things probably a little bit quicker than some of these other schools. And you're going to. It's a great selling point. If you go to Notre Dame for 4 years and play football and then graduate with a degree from there, you're going to be able to get a job no matter where you go if you don't want to play professional football. So Notre Dame is number 4 for me. I think everything you have is there. Again, a ton of money that gets dumped in from donors. They have great indoor facilities, just like 2 of the next 3 schools we're going to mention. It's there. I think they needed the right guy to get at the helm of that program and kind of get them back to prominence. And I think that guy is there. Number 3, Ohio State. The sustained success is, as much as I hate to say it, it's there for a reason. Again, a northern school, great facilities, great indoor facilities. You have to have them. And the biggest praise I could say about Ohio State is the money they raise from alumni, not even so much donors, but like people that actually went there and give back to the facility, give back to the university every year is huge. I think they're like 5th or 6th. Cottrell could probably clarify that, but they're up there. It's a lot of money every year. And that's just the average person that graduates and goes, I'm giving $2,000 back to my school this year. That's rare. And again, that's not huge billionaire donor guys. That's just the average guy or girl that graduates from Ohio State and gives back. So their fan base is as loyal as it gets. It's huge. It's everywhere. I see people around here with Ohio State stuff on all the time. They have a certain standard. If you want to be a winning college football coach and that job open, you would be crazy not to try to go there and get that job. High pressure, but pressure bursts pipes. If you want to know you're a good coach, you can make it, then Ohio State's one of those places you'd want to go. Number 2, Texas. Again, we've talked about the Texas money probably too much here with all these lists, but nobody has more money than the Longhorns in regard to alumni. They are number 1 alumni. Talked about McConaughey, but a bunch of other people. And then on top of that, you factor in their donors and all that stuff. That program just oozes money. Great location. Austin is a great city. It is not hard to get kids on campus there and make them fall in love with it. Between the nightlife, the food, the location, you're in Texas. You're not going to deal with bad weather. You get rain every once in a while, but It is just an absolute great play to go. Texas is also, I think what doesn't get mentioned with Texas enough is it's actually a good school. Again, it's not an easy school to get into. It's not, I don't want to point anybody out, but it's not Georgia. It's not Alabama. Like it's a challenging academic place to get into. So, again, it's another school with a lot of pressure, though. I think this falls in the same category as Ohio State. We've seen coaches win 10, 11 games there and not get over the hump and get fired. They have a lot of money, but they want results for the money and they want it quick at Texas. So, again, that all goes with it. That's part of the standard of being a good program. It's one of those things where it's almost a privilege to have that pressure, and you have to earn it. So, Longhorns number 2 for me. Number 1 for me, Michigan. I think you factor everything in. Stadium, facilities. They got all their Jumpman stuff. They were the first ones to get it. Academically, it's the best school on this list by a mile. You factor everything in with what you get there. Kind of same thing as Notre Dame. You walk away from Michigan with a degree, you can get a job anywhere in the world. All their indoor stuff, they've spent close to $1 billion on the last 3 years, and a lot of that is football. Their new football facility is incredible. It's all there up north. It's just not becoming the detriment that it used to be. And you see that with Michigan, you see it with Ohio State, you see it with Notre Dame. These kids are going up there now because they know they don't have to practice, in the winter outside. They're going to practice in a brand new $100 million facility. So all things considered, I think with the alumni base, the endowment, they have the biggest endowment in the country with Notre Dame, like I said, and their donors. A lot of high profile people. Portnoy came on last year, and what really gave them the jump up for me this year was their commitment to the money. They were very hesitant to do it for a long time. They finally just realized, if you want to compete with, Ohio State, Oregon, USC, LSU, all these teams that want to spend all this money, you got to do it. And they're $50 million alone just in cash. 40 of that's going to the football team every year. And like I said, it's not going to go anywhere. Larry Ellison is guaranteed $25 million to the program every year. Portnoy is between 3 and 5. The NIL money is not going to dry up anytime soon in Michigan. So a little bit of a homer pick, but again, you factor in everything for me. You can make a strong case for them to be number 1 with what's happened in the last couple of years.
All right, Cottrell, you want to jump on his list first?
I think the big thing is he said academically none of these schools are close, and I look at Notre Dame and I'm like, depending on what way you look at it, Notre Dame might be better. That's the first thing. But outside of that, I think that you guys have Bama on here, and I honestly think that without Saban, Alabama's going to take a fall. Not because of the lack of talent or their ability to get talent, but I just think with the way NIL is now, like Bama was able to get a lot of their prospects. One, you had the Saban culture, and I think a lot of people believed in that, which they should have. He's greatest college football coach of all time. But at the same time, I also think that Bama was paying players before NIL became a thing, and now that there's a lot of equal playing fields here, and I may be controversial saying that, but there's nothing you could say to me to make me change my mind regarding that. And I also think that, now that the playing fields are equal, you got a lot of places that can spend as much as Bama. They have the tradition there. And Nick Saban's not walking to that door anytime soon. So I think Bama is actually trending in the wrong direction here. I think if we look at this 3 years from now, which is kind of how I viewed like the top 10 job, just as far as like trajectory and all that stuff goes, like I don't think Bama is in a position to be like super successful. I think you get people that go there because of the history of it, but as we move forward here, talent wasn't an issue this year. DeBoer's a good coach. He made it work at Washington, and he wasn't even at Washington long. So I don't think it's a void of talent. I just think that other schools are, one, running their programs better, and two, like Bill says, been saying the past couple of weeks, these other schools just got more money.
Yeah, obviously, I think if Saban's still there, I think Alabama's probably in everybody's top 3. I have them 7. I would agree with you. They're moving the wrong direction. I still don't think you could say it's not a top 10 job still, though. If they fired Kellen DeBoer tomorrow, there's a lot of people's coaches on this list that would probably highly contemplate taking that job.
You're right. I would personally want no parts of it, but you're 100% right. Like, I think Dan Lanning not leaving Alabama's a better job than Oregon. Like, especially last year, Alabama's it's a bigger program. That's a step up. Like, that's one of the few schools that is going to be a step up from Oregon. And Dan Lanning said no because he saw that they're going the wrong direction.
It's that, but I think the one good thing about not that I say anything bad about Dan Lanning, but the one I respect Dan Lanning in the fact that I think the difference between him and Kellen is I think Dan Lanning wants to be the guy that 4 years from now or whatever, 5 years from now could say, I kind of did at Oregon what Saban did at Alabama. And not that maybe to that degree. Like, I don't think he's going to win 5 championships in 10 years. But if he wins one in the next 4 years, that guy never buys a drink in Oregon ever again. Like, sure. he becomes like the hero guy. Like, he becomes the guy. Like, he becomes the guy that brought Oregon football to that peak and left them there to be sustained there. Whereas I think Kellen DeBoer was like, I'll go jump on the hot Alabama ship and hope I can do a good enough job and keep that job. But I don't think he even realized maybe necessarily the pressure of it. And again, I've said I think Alabama's a great job. I would not have wanted to be the guy that followed Nick Saban though, and somebody was going to have to jump at that. And Dan Lanning might have even thought about that too. Like, do I want to stay here and stay with what I've built and what I have going forward? Or do I want to be the guy that's going to go to Alabama and every single thing I do get compared to Nick Saban? I would not want to be that guy. So his loyalty to Oregon, I think you have to give him credit for it. And I think he also knows what the opportunity is there. That if he does win a national championship in the next couple of years, like he becomes, a cult hero up there forever.
You're not wrong. Anything else you want to talk about these lists? I know we're running short on time before we jump over to our next topic. I'm good.
I mean, again, I think
you have no complaints, Alex.
This list is better than yours, except for Ohio State. I had Ohio State up pretty high too, but no.
He's got Oregon at 5. And you say his list is better than mine. You're something.
You've been talking a lot of crap today, Cottrell. You get no love from me. Michigan at number 1 is a little bit of obviously a homer pick, which I totally understand. You put it at number 1 with with unknown uncertainty from all the kind of chaos that's been going on over the last few years, and not knowing if that shoe's going to drop and when. So I left Michigan off my list, just not knowing what the future holds and being put in a situation to possibly be punished for somebody else's mistakes and mess ups is why I left Michigan off my list. But I definitely understand why Bill put Michigan at 1. Control, did that have any what how much of that weighed on your decision? I know you had Michigan on your list, but did that possible incoming punishment hinder you at all as far as putting Michigan higher on your list?
Well, you talk about me not listening to you. I actually explained that when I went over Michigan.
I was listening to you, and I'm showing you exactly what it's like to not be listening to.
I literally put them at 5, and I left all that stuff aside. Now, if that factored into it, that's why the asterisk is up top. And I said, I remember the punishments come, then that's when things will change. But as is, it's the top 5 job in the country, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, 7 and 5 is pretty top 5. You're right. All right, let's go on to
8
where are we going
5.
to next? 8. Oh, sorry. You guys did beat Bama in the bowl game. You're right.
And we sent 15 kids to the league. We won that thing that you're still chasing the year before that.
Jeez, you don't even know what it's called. It's been so long, Bill. All right, let's move on.
I'm surprised you even know what it looks like because you've never had one.
I've made so many slides with the picture of it on there. I know exactly what it looks like.
It's the closest as you get to it, too.
All right, buy myself a replica.
Again, we got the perfect segues here. It's talking about championships. Let's talk about the path to get to the championship next year.
And Justin, you don't understand what I go through every season listening to these a-holes talk about national championships.
Maybe you should be a little bit more.
It's Pac-12
a little
real
maybe
Maybe win
It's
one, buddy.
something different.
Maybe-
Oh, Pac-12's not a real conference. Oh, you know what? Welcome to the Big Ten, where we can show you where the big boys play. Big Ten championship. Oh, but you guys didn't win the Natty. What's next? After you win the Natty, then what? Oh, you guys haven't
Then
won
win the
two.
Natty.
Then nothing. Then
Then
hey,
It's always going to be something
hey,
else.
Then you
Alex,
get to-
then you're one of us. One
Yeah, you
of us. One
you,
of
Justin.
us. We start
I don't
chanting
want
after
to be
you win
one
the
of
natty.
you. I would rather be.
You'd rather
screaming
just be a
by
loser
myself.
with the O to represent how many natties you have. I get it. All right.
Yeah.
If you want to
Once
stay
you
there,
win,
all right.
you
We're
get to
trying to
come with the-
welcome you to the Allure, but you don't want to be here. So
You get
You
to
don't
come into the
welcome
cool
nobody.
clubhouse if you win one.
I'll build my own clubhouse. You aren't invited.
I don't need to go. I hang out with the winners.
but we go
Yeah,
champions
yeah.
way.
You get to hang out with Ohio State fans.
Hey,
That's real
champions
fun.
way. It's a fun club,
Yeah.
exclusive.
All right, where's
Exclusive
you
club.
next?
You're still in almost there circle. I don't
All
like
right,
that anymore.
since Bill went last on the last one, figured he can start us off here with his way too early 2026 12-team college football playoff.
Oh, I love this, Bill. This is beautiful. No Ohio State. Oh, yeah, there they are. Never mind. Got all excited for a second.
I'm objectionable though. That's what you
I
need
don't
to
think
learn.
you are. I don't think you
I
are.
am. I
If
am.
you are, they wouldn't be a 5.
I am. That's why they're at 5. I think too many people listen. You'll see consistency here. I think it's one thing we saw this year. Quarterback play is immensely important. I know Ohio State's still going to bring back Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, and a couple of the really good players. I think they're losing a lot. Not to compare it again. I think I don't think they're going to have the drop that Michigan had this year, but I know Julian saying is all everything. He's still going to, for lack of a better terms, he's still going to be a freshman starter. But I'll get to Ohio State in a minute. I got Penn State number 1, bringing back a lot of their defense. Drew Aller, both running backs. They are losing Tyler Warren, which is a huge chunk of their offense. Lost both, their top 2 pass catchers, which was already an issue. They both hit the portal. But I think Penn State is in the best position to make a run, another run next year. It becomes kind of Drew Aller's kind of redemption tour. I think the kid's coming back. You've seen the model work the last 2 years. Michigan was very junior and senior, heavy. Ohio State was the same way this year. It matters. I got Penn State number 1. I think they're going to win the Big Ten next year. I have Clemson at 4. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win the ACC next year. I think Miami lost a ton. I know they have a lot of big recruits coming in, but they're all young. And I think Clemson, with the way they kind of turned the corner the last month of the season, Cade Klubnik is still going to be there. Again, senior quarterback play, I think matters. I don't know what I'm getting out of Carson Beck at Miami. And Florida State's a disaster right now. So I'm going with Clemson to win the ACC and be the 4. Arizona State, bringing back 8 starters on the defense. Bringing back, what's your boy's name, Alex? Sam Levitt, quarterback. It's going to be a sophomore. Kid's going to be even better than he was last year. I think Arizona State, is clearly going to be the best team in the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is also going to be, I think it's going to be very similar to the way it was this year. I think they're all going to beat the hell out of each other. But we'll see what happens. But overall, I really like their chance to at least get back here. I'm going to give them the slight edge with Colorado losing what they lost. BYU lost a couple good players, and I think Iowa State and a couple other teams are going to take a little bit of a step back next year. So Arizona State is my way too early Big 12 champ. I got them in the 3 hole. Number 2, LSU, Gus Neumeyer, Brian Kelly. I think Brian Kelly's firmly on the hot seat. I think with what they have coming back on offense and what they brought in, I think that offense is going to be very dangerous. They got to get the defense back up to par for what an LSU team is, though. But I think they have the best chance to win the SEC next year. I think Ole Miss is going to take a little step back. Florida worries me a little bit. Georgia's replacing almost their entire defense, and we've seen the struggles what limitations they have offensively already from this year. So I'm going to give LSU the slight edge to come out of the SEC as the champion early. So they're my top 4 seeds. This is where it gets a little tricky. Number 8 for me, I have Notre Dame. Again, I think I have Notre Dame a lot lower than a lot of national people is because I don't know what's going on with their quarterback situation. They have redshirt sophomore CJ Carr coming off, who is supposed to be the heir apparent to the starting position. He's coming off elbow surgery. We saw their backup play for a series in the college football playoff. He looked like he was pretty good, but can he replicate that for a whole season? I don't know. Alabama, same thing. Their quarterback position's a little bit up for up in the air with who's going to win it and who's going to be the clear cut number one. I have them at number 9. I think they make an at-large of the SEC simply because I think whoever plays quarterback there, they're still going to have Ryan Williams, and their defense is actually bringing back a bunch of people this year. So their defense is a little bit better than people thought it was. I think Alabama's defense keeps them in enough games where they get an at-large bid. Number 5, Ohio State. Like I was just saying, Julian's saying I'm fully expecting to be the number 1 there. I think the kid has all the talent in the world. He's one of the highest recruited rated quarterbacks ever in all the services. But again, they're going to have a little bit of attrition. They did just lose their DC. I think that's a big deal. They're still going to have Caleb Downs, but I mean, they're losing a lot of their front 7 kids that have been there for 4 years, multiple Lettermans, losing both their running backs. Jeremiah Smith obviously is all world everything, but I think Ohio State's going to have a little bit of a learning curve per se to get Julian comfortable. They start the year with Texas, which is no easy feat in its own right. So I still expect Ohio State to get there. I think it's just going to be a little bit of a less dominating. I think it's going to be a little bit more. I think they'll play a lot of tight games next year. But I think they're going to have a learning curve because they're going to start a lot of new kids next year. I got them playing Boise State. I think Boise State still ends up being the group of 5. Mason Maddox coming out. I know they lose Genty, but they're bringing a decent part of that defense back. And I think offensively they're going to be okay. Their schedule is actually a little bit easier next year than it was this year. That went into my thinking as well. So I think Boise State right now, barring anything crazy, I think they're my group of 5 representative next year. This is probably my favorite matchup of the first round. Texas number 6 against Florida number 11. I think DJ Lagaway, again, takes another step forward. I think that Florida team becomes very dangerous. I think maybe they lose a game earlier in the year they're not supposed to, but I think Billy Napier and company get into the playoff next year. It's a blue blood team that we definitely want to see in there. So I have Florida getting in. Arch Manning. This boils down to me. I think Arch Manning is going to be fine. They have to replace their top 3 receivers, 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen, and half of their defense. I don't think Texas. I don't know. I'll say this. I don't know if Texas is in Ohio State, in old Alabama, where they're just an automatic reload, or in Georgia, like Georgia was for a while. I don't know if they're in automatic reload territory yet, and they have to prove that to me. I know everybody has Texas 1 or 2. I think they're in growing pains. I really do. I think they have a lot of new moving parts to break in with a new quarterback, even though he has some experience. I got Texas getting in, but not at 1 or 2. I definitely have him getting in at 6. Last but not least, I think Oregon, same thing. I know Dante Moore has some experience, but again, he did lose his job to a no-name in UCLA. It's going to be very interesting to see how quickly and how much he's advanced sitting behind Dylan Gabriel for a year. I think he's a very, very tricky first-round matchup with Illinois, which a team is going to be very experienced, maybe not the skill level of an Ohio State or Oregon, but they're bringing almost everybody back this year. I think Illinois is a sleeper team to watch in the Big Ten. And their hardest game, they have 2 tough games this year, and one of them is at home. I believe they play. Do they have you guys at home or away? I can't remember.
Home.
So they have Ohio State home, and I believe they have to go to Penn State. That's their 2 toughest games. I don't think they're anything worse than 10-2. And I think that maybe they win one of those games. So I think Illinois is a team that come playoff time, you're probably not going to want to play. Again, I think they're going to be very experienced. We talked about Altmaier all year long. I think he takes another leap. I think that team is going to be very good and very dangerous. So Illinois at number 10 rounds out my top 12.
Right, perfect. I believe I'm next here.
So Illinois doesn't play Penn State this year.
What?
Did you say Illinois played Penn State and Ohio State were their toughest matchups of the year?
I think so.
Yeah, they don't play Penn State this next year.
Yeah, well,
Is it just have Ohio State?
They might be one loss then.
They have Ohio State. Their toughest schedule, because I'm talking about Illinois also, is they had a stretch where it's Indiana, USC, Ohio State, and their only road game is at Indiana. They got USC and Ohio State at home. That's their toughest stretch of their schedule.
Indiana's not going to be as good as they were this year.
Exactly. So really, USC and Ohio State are their two toughest matches. So really, they could easily one loss. Just wanted to touch base on that. But sorry, go ahead, Chuck.
So number one for me, I got Georgia. It's funny because Bill didn't even have them in making the playoff, and I got them as number one seed. So, obviously, like different views there. I think for me, Georgia defensively, they retool every year. I think they'll be fine defensively, and I loved what they brought in from the portal. I think Gunner being their quarterback next year, he will have the opportunity to sling it. You guys know how much I love Zachariah Branch already. They also brought in Noah Thomas from the portal to be receiver there. I think the offense will look drastically different next year, and I think Georgia gets it back on track here. Number two for me, I got Ohio State, and it's funny because I think ultimately Ohio State wins the Big Ten because Penn State does have defensive growing pains with the new DC there. I think Penn State loses 2 games in the regular season there, so I have Ohio State over Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. But with that said, I think there are still 3 or 4 teams ahead of Ohio State. I just think they get fortunate this year that they really only have, I think they lose to Texas week 1, but then outside of that, they have time to ultimately figure it out with Julian saying and go through all that. You find a way to beat Penn State. Then at the end of the year, obviously they've had their issues with Michigan, but I think Michigan will still be going through some more growing pains there. So if you take care of business the games you should, you really only have to be Penn State. You go 12-1 into the Big Ten championship game, and you'd be in good shape there. So I like Ohio State at 2, but I don't think they're the second best team in the country. Just wanted to put that out there. Number 3 for me, I got North Carolina, the big surprise there. Big reason. I mean, you could talk about Bill Belichick and what he's going to bring to the program. I looked at it like I went through their schedule. The only game that I could see them losing is against Clemson. Like they don't really face any of the big bad programs in the ACC there. I think Bill Belichick's going to be able to come in, implement a game plan where literally if you just play good defense, you could find a way to win every single one of those football games. Like I think every game North Carolina has could be a toss-up. And with Bill on the sidelines, I'm expecting them to win a ton of those toss-up matchups because he's going to outcoach who's ever on the opposite side of him. But then that leads me right to number 4, Arizona State. I think you're going to see a lot of what Bill said. In the Big 12, those teams are going to beat the hell out of each other game in and game out. But I think Arizona State's going to be the one that ultimately climbs to the top of that mountain there. They've been there before. I think they'll be able to do it again. You got a great coach, one of the best, surprise coaches, of the year this past year with Kyle Dillingham. I think, with what they bring back at quarterback and just that experience that they have, they're going to find a way to win the Big 12 yet again. Now I'll go ahead and go over to my other side, all of my at-large teams here. Florida coming in, I think they're going to get the 8th seed. DJ Lagway is definitely going to take that step this year. You saw how well they played with him at quarterback last year. I think with him having full reins this year and not having to consistently look over his shoulder about when is Graham Mertz coming back in the game, I think Florida's going to be a hard team to beat this year. And I went heavy on my SEC schools because I truly think the SEC is going to be absolutely incredible next season, which leads me into number 9, South Carolina. What they bring back, Lenore Sellers, another year better. They closed on a great note. They're bringing back a ton defensively as well. Really only losing Kyle Kennard is like a big piece. Dylan Stewart's going to be a sophomore, and he wrecked through the SEC last year as a true freshman. I think that's going to be a fun matchup between 2 SEC schools. Moving on here, kind of alluded to it earlier. I got Oregon at number 5. I think they may run the table in the regular season there. They do have to face Penn State. I could see them going into the Big Ten championship game undefeated. I think Oregon's going to be really good. I love Dante Moore. I think he's going to be a step up, and I'm in the minority when I say this, but I think he's going to be a step up from Dylan Gabriel, and I think that Oregon team will be humming. I love DeCorian Moore. I think he's going to play as a true freshman. A lot of good things about that Oregon team. I just ultimately think that they lose the Big Ten championship game, which would have them at the 5 seed. And if I'm an Oregon fan, I kind of would like that because I think that's the easiest path to try to get to where you want to go. But moving forward here, who they would face, got UTEP. They were 3-9 last year, but guess what? I'm not giving up on Malachi Nelson. Malachi Nelson has the talent. I know what I saw. He's going to go there. He's going to light it up for an awful team with a bad schedule. They only face so far. Texas is the only one on their schedule that I could see as being like a definitive loss. But if you come out and you have a good game against Texas and then you run the table, we just saw it last year with Boise. They had a close game against Oregon, and then they went and ran the table and they made it to the college football playoffs. So I think UTEP can find themselves in a very similar boat this upcoming season with a guy who was considered the best quarterback of the 2023 class at one point, Malachi Nelson. Moving on to the next matchup here, got two SEC schools, Texas coming in at number 6, Auburn at number 11. Love what Auburn brings back. Jackson Arnold looked absolutely abysmal at Oklahoma. I think him getting a fresh start over at Auburn is going to help. He's also going to have one of the best receivers in the country in Cam Coleman. Cam Coleman will be a phenomenal weapon for him. And I think Auburn football is going to be back this year. And the other thing is that even if Jackson Arnold isn't, the QB for the next season, they also have Deuce Knight, true freshman, 5-star kid, has a ton of talent, and he may even get some snaps in at quarterback as like a wildcat kind of guy, or just similar to how Texas used Arch Manning this past season here. But with that said, just talk a little bit about Texas. You have Arch Manning coming in. I do think there are some question marks there, but ultimately, I think Texas will beat Ohio State week 1. I think Texas is retooled here. I think Texas is one of those teams, like one of the 5 or so teams that can legitimately win a national championship next year. And I think a big part of that is going to be Arch. He knows the system. He knows what he has there. I think Texas will be 100% fine next year. I just think Georgia's a little bit better, which is why I have them in the SEC championship game. And then my last two, really, I think these two are the ones that are going to be the real wild cards. Penn State could come in and be the best team in the country. I know Bill had them at 1. I think that's possible. I just think, again, from what I saw while Jim Knowles at Ohio State, I do think there will be a learning curve with that defense. So they have 2 big games on their schedule. They have Ohio State, and I believe they have Oregon as well. I think they lose both of those games, which is why I'd have them at 7. But again, if they can pick up that Jim Knowles system and pick it up quickly, we could be talking about Penn State as one of the most dangerous teams in the entire country. I don't see that happen. I see it being a little bit of a learning curve there. So I have them coming in at number 7. And then number 10 for me, much to my dismay, I don't want to see Brian Kelly in the playoff. I wish him nothing but failures, his entire career there. But I just think the talent is going to be too undeniable for him this year. Gary Nussmeier is an incredible quarterback. I think, you saw a few weeks ago, I had him ultimately winning the Heisman. I think if he has a Heisman caliber season, that's going to mean LSU has a ton of success. I love them picking up Patrick Payton from the portal. He's going to improve that defense. And I think LSU is going to be one of those teams where you look at the end of the season, they're going to have, 1 to 2 losses. And I think with that being the case, they're going to be one of those undeniable schools you can't leave out of the playoff.
Well, I said the UTEP caught me off guard, but then I remembered Malachi Nelson went there, and I was like, that makes sense. That makes sense. At least he's being consistent with his support of Malachi Nelson. I
had Boise last year because of Malachi Nelson, and I'm going to have UTEP this year because of Malachi Nelson.
I had Boise last year because of Malachi Nelson as well, and then now I'm not following him no more. Third school, can't go with you, buddy. No, North Carolina is an interesting pick for sure. Obviously, the Big 12 is going to be, but North Carolina.
Look at their schedule. I'm telling you, because I was like, all right, let me see what Bill can possibly do this first year. I looked at their schedule. I'm like, you only have to face Clemson? Like, you could probably get to the ACC championship game and only have to see Clemson as the only tough game on your entire schedule. Like, even non-conference stuff. Like, they didn't have anything that popped off the schedule there.
Bill, anything you have comment-wise on his too early?
No, I mean, other than North Carolina, I think we view a lot of the stuff the same, which is a matter of different order. I think he's got Georgia a little bit ahead of where I do. Maybe Ohio State the same, but it's going to be interesting for sure.
All right. We got one more to go. Oh yeah, it's me. Boom. All right. I love this bracket, and I'm hoping this bracket comes into fruition next year. But Texas, we'll start off quickly. Texas at number 1, coming off back-to-back semifinals. Arch Manning shows I already see his leadership. I already see his swag. I think he's gonna have no problem leading Texas into the season, going into Ohio State game 1, getting the W, and kind of setting the tone for the season. At the number 4 seed, I have Kansas State. I do believe that. Sorry. Number 4 seed, I have Kansas State. This is the second year with Avery Johnson under the helm. Dylan Edwards absolutely went off last year. I think their second year together is gonna spell trouble for the rest of the Big 12. And as I said, during the regular season schedule, they get to avoid Arizona State and they get to avoid BYU, which I think is 2 huge matchups that they get to avoid this season. Kind of like Oregon getting to miss out against Michigan and Ohio State this year. I think that schedule really works in Kansas State's favor. Clemson at number 3. Dabo and company put together a better season than any of us thought they would last year and earned a trip to the college football playoff. And Cade Klubnik did not enter the transfer portal and is coming back. And he showed us what kind of leader he could be and what that Clemson team is capable of when he's firing on all cylinders. And as far as the other teams in the ACC, I don't think Miami upgraded at the running back position. I don't think Carson Beck is an upgrade over Cam Ward. I don't think Miami is going to be as competitive in the ACC as they were last year. And then obviously FSU, not quite there yet. I love Castellanos, but I don't think that Florida State's going to be able to bounce back as quickly as Seminole fans would hope that they would. And then for Penn, I have Penn State at number 2. This is how you know I'm being unbiased. I put Penn State at number 2. Penn State has a lot of things going for them that the last 2 national championship teams had going for them. 2 solid running backs and a senior-laden class hell-bent on revenge from this season. And so Drew Allen's coming back. You got Katron Allen coming back. You got Nick Singleton coming back. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, they all have very similar qualities. And I think Penn State's going to kind of take that, charge in the next season, new defensive coordinator. I think they're going to not have as big of a learning curve as, Cottrell thinks that they might with Jim Knowles taking over. I think Penn State has, like I said, besides playing Ohio State next year, they have a very favorable schedule. And I think that them and Oregon play against each other in the Big Ten championship. I think Oregon gets game 1. I think Penn State, being having gone far in the National College Football Playoff as well as being in the Big Ten championship last year, they kind of know what's at stake, and I think they're able to kind of pull that second coming off, and beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship. We're then going to go over to Tennessee at number 8. Nico's second year had a taste of success and arguably got embarrassed in round 1. They're going to be looking to come out here and show people wrong after what they suffered at Ohio State last season. I got Tennessee at 8. And then, Bill, I have to agree with you on Illinois. I really like Illinois coming into next season. Illinois goes to Indiana. They get USC and Ohio State at home. 10 wins for just the 5th time in program history, and they're bringing a lot of talent back, including 18 returning starters, including quarterback Luke Altmaier. And I think Illinois, like I said, very favorable schedule. I think, if they could only lose 2 games, I think they're easily in the college football playoff next year. At number 5, we got Georgia. Gunnar Stockton looked capable, but didn't look like someone who could really take over a game. But adding playmakers in the transfer portal, like Zachariah Branch, I think that they're going to find a way to get him the ball. And that's where USC has failed the last couple of years, is not putting the ball in his hands. I don't expect Georgia to make that mistake. I expect him to get Reggie Bush type carries. Number 12, I got UNLV. I was high on them last year. Obviously, their kryptonite was Boise State. Boise State's losing Ashton Genty. Not sure what their running attack is going to look like. Maddox Madsen did not have a lot of success through the air against UNLV in their 2 matchups. I like Dan Mullen, the hiring at UNLV for head coach. And it's going to be nice to see what Alex Orji brings to the table. I kind of see Alex Orji as a stronger, faster
Oh, man.
Yeller?
It wouldn't be right if Yeller didn't come and mess this up.
You can't even talk about Alex Orji without messing something up.
It's unfortunate here because he was just about to get over to Oregon. Like he lost the Oregon love. Well, since he's not here, let's just dissect this list then until he gets back.
I think it's interesting. He's got no Ohio State at all.
I love it. I honestly love it because it's becoming real hate now. Like that's literally what it is. I'm sure he was going to give us a reason and say it was a logical thing, but I guarantee it was nothing other than, just the fact that he's growing this real hatred for us, which I can understand, and I love it.
Georgia Tech is an interesting one because I think with that quarterback being back, I think they have a chance to win a couple games. I don't know how much else they lost. I don't know what else is going on around that position. So that one's interesting, obviously. And I think having BYU and Kansas State both in over Arizona State is pretty daunting to me. I know BYU's bringing back a decent amount as well. But as I said, Arizona State is literally bringing back almost everybody but Scatterville, and I know that is a enormous chunk of that team. But bringing back 8-9 starters on defense.
Jordan Tyson didn't play in the bowl games or anything, but look, he got him back.
There he is.
My bad, y'all. I'm on the road right now. My hotspot shirt off. But no, where was I? I don't know what you guys were talking about.
Oh, we were just talking about your list here while you were gone, but you left off you're about to get to Oregon.
That's right. Oregon. Sorry. Thank you guys for holding it down. First year of the Dante Moore tenure, I feel confident about his ability, the weapons added in the portal, and I'm not mad at the schedule either, with the obvious big game being at Penn State. I think playing a team twice in the season is tough. Oregon beat Ohio State last year in the first matchup. Did not go so well the second time. And I think it's going to be a very similar situation next year, where Penn State wins in the Big Ten championship, forcing Oregon to get a first-round home game, which I am not mad about at all. And I would really be excited for that matchup with Georgia Tech. That'd be a fantastic game as a college football fan. Perfect segue over to Georgia Tech at the number 11 seed. Now, Georgia and Haynes King, we trust. Look for Tech to throw the ball a lot more than normal next year. Haynes King has shown what he can do when he throws the ball 30-plus times in a game. Understand that Georgia Tech's perfect game plan isn't throwing the ball, but like I said, the way Haynes King showed out last year, look for them to kind of open up their offense a little bit and give him an opportunity. Give him an opportunity to really show what he can do, and I like what Georgia Tech's bringing to the table next year. He had over. Truly is a dual threat. What?
No, you got Bama and BYU. Let's go.
All right, then we got. Bill started talking. Alabama at 7. I think Ty Simpson plays the QB style that Kalen DeBoer really needs. More of a pocket guy, can extend the play, but isn't going to burn you like Milroe could down the field with his legs. And he can throw the ball deep downfield, and I think year 2 will really reap the reward of what Alabama expected last year. I think year 2 under DeBoer is going to be a lot more successful. And then for BYU, let me see that. I'm at number 10. So at BYU, Jake Retzlaff is coming back and returned 3 starters at linebacker. That could be one of the best linebacking corps in the country. Look for BYU to try to finish the job they couldn't finish last year. That they do end on a 4-game road trip. They could kind of spell a little bit of frustration for their season. But I like BYU to actually make it this year. I actually like BYU to be ranked ahead of Kansas State going into that Big 12 championship game, and Kansas State finding a way to win. But that's my 12.
So no Ohio State for you. And I think even more surprising is no Arizona State for you.
No Arizona State. I do think the loss of Cam Scatterbo will. I also think, like I said, Notre Dame's not in there. Notre Dame has a lot tougher schedule next year. Ohio State has a very tough schedule. I also think that a new quarterback, losing running backs. Yes, you still have obviously Jeremiah Smith. You guys still have a skilled defense, but you have a new defensive coordinator. There's a lot of moving pieces. I'm honestly anticipating them having a similar, if not slightly more successful season than Michigan had this last year with all the moving pieces. I told Cottrell in the group chat, in the text message yesterday that I have Michigan, Oregon, I have Ohio State all next year in the college football playoff. But I still feel like Michigan's a year away, and I still feel like Ohio State needs a year to kind of get Julian Sain up and running. So that's why I don't have them in there this year.
All right, Alex, just a question for you, because you mentioned the tougher schedule here. And you also mentioned Illinois probably being a 10-2 school. So I'd imagine you have Ohio State being one of Illinois' losses this year.
I have to relook over the schedule. I ran it through my head yesterday. Let me see. Illinois.
Well, I mean, I just think. I mean, you said. I mean, yeah, you said 10-2. I'm just, I imagine if Illinois has 2 losses, and the way that their schedule looks, that one of them would be Ohio State.
I actually said 1 loss.
So,
and yeah,
okay.
I think that 1 loss would be possibly to Ohio State. Correct.
Okay. With Ohio State's schedule, you say it's tough.
Let me pull it up because I don't have it right in front of me as I'm looking at it, which I'm sure you were getting it up and readying your argument the second I said it. So let me just get all armed up as well so I can defend myself here.
You say it's I think last year's schedule was tougher because you had Oregon in it.
Yes, but you had a senior quarterback. You had 2 of the best running backs in the country and the best defense in the country. Next year, you're losing a quarterback, losing 2 running backs, losing Emeka Egbuka.
And that has nothing to do with the schedule.
I don't. I'm just saying, like, yes, your schedule was tougher, but your personnel could handle it. Personnel next year isn't going to be able to go through facing Texas, facing Wisconsin on the road, Penn State, Michigan at the end of the year.
Now he's got respect for Wisconsin. You see that, Bill? You see that? I'm glad you said it.
Hold on a second. So I'm using your logic against you, and now I'm wrong. You told me last year going to Wisconsin is no easy place to play. So
you weren't hearing me. You weren't hearing me.
Exactly, and we won, but it was a tough game. So now I'm using your logic against
which I'm
you.
fine with. I'm fine with. I'm just saying now you're around.
I see a possibility of 3 losses for Ohio State next year. If they get to 3 losses, they're obviously not in, and I see 3 losses next season.
Fair enough.
Texas, Penn State, Michigan.
Okay.
There we go.
Gonna be interesting.
Like I said, I didn't have Michigan in this year's college football playoff because I saw them having a little bit of a fall off from the national championship season. I feel the same way about Ohio State. I'm not saying they're down and out for eternity. I'm saying 1 year they're not going to be in it. Next year they'll be back. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's my final 12. I'd be ecstatic to see this 12.
I might throw up my mouth a little bit if I see Georgia Tech in the playoff over Ohio State, but
dude, wouldn't that be wild? Hey, I got the Georgia Tech feeling like I had SMU last year in my gut.
Yeah.
All right, come on, you got to give me that. You got to give me that credit.
Oh, SMU was a great call, but I just don't know if there's a shot in hell that Illinois would lose to Ohio State and still make it into the playoff over them. That would also make me disgusted.
Well, again, we can't let a 3-loss team in. If Illinois only has 1 loss and it's to Ohio State, but Ohio State's got 3 losses, obviously they get in. That's obvious. I mean, Ohio State got in, but Michigan beat them. I mean, that's just come on now. Come on now.
It's a rivalry game. It's a little different.
All right. Well, we'll finish it up on awards, and then we're wrapping it up for the season.
Yeah. Last segment of the year.
Can't believe it's here. Also thankful it's here.
We ready to get it started?
Yes.
Everybody ready?
Whenever you are. All right. So we're going to start with Offensive Player of the Year. We went through all this. We had different categories. We all selected somebody to nominate for this position. And personally, I think for choosing the winner, I feel like we should all vote for someone that we didn't nominate. I feel like that would be. Or is that how you guys want to decide it that way? But anyway, we got Nick Nash, San Jose State University, runner-up for wide receiver of the year, over 1,300 yards receiving on the season. I got Ashton Genty, obviously runner-up to the Heisman. Both of them finishing runner-up to the same person, Travis Hunter. Over 2,600 rushing yards, and then Tyler Warren, over 1,233 receiving yards, 218 rushing yards, and 1 passing touchdown. Cannot forget about that little guy. Control, start off with you. In your mind, who is your Offensive Player of the Year?
Well, I'll go ahead and just say I nominated Genty. But if I'm having to vote for someone who I did nominate here, I go with Tyler Warren. I love the impact, and Nick Nash was great for San Jose State there, but the impact for Tyler Warren, I mean, he was Penn State's end all be all took some QB snaps there. Penn State doesn't make it as far as they do without Tyler Warren there. So if I can't go Genty, I'll go with Tyler Warren.
Bill, any insight as far as for you?
I mean, I nominated Genty as well.
Because y'all were supposed to nominate 3 different people, and y'all nominated the same people on 90% of these. So I had to kind of throw in audibles.
If I can't pick him, then I would go with Tyler Warren as well. He was pretty much the all everything for Penn State. He was there literally almost their entire passing game. So I would lean towards him as well if I can't pick Genty. I think Genty's the clear winner here, though.
Yeah. I mean, Tyler Warren, fantastic season. I think, him and Ashton Genty had the same sort of effect on defensive coordinators where you essentially had to plan your entire game plan around those 2 guys on the field. I would definitely vote for Ashton Genty. We'll change it up for the next one since, obviously both of you did nominate Genty. So Genty should be the winner on this one. So we'll go ahead and give Genty the Offensive Player of the Year since he had 2 nominations in this category. But I do have to agree with that Tyler Warren sentiment. I feel like he almost had a bigger impact on Genty because, like I said, from a tight end position, 1,300 receiving yards, being able to throw the ball for a touchdown and rush the ball for 218 yards. I mean, he truly was all-encompassing for that Penn State team. But I do feel like, obviously, Ashton Genty finishing second in the Heisman, arguably could have won the Heisman any other year had he been nominated for it. So I would vote for Ashton Genty as well. And since you both nominated him, Ashton Genty is Coast to Coast Offensive Player of the Year. Wish we had like a little like clapping sound effect. That would be fun. Now we got Defensive Player of the Year. We'll go ahead and do this one a little bit differently. Cottrell, do you want to go ahead and announce who it was that you had nominated for Defensive Player of the Year?
I believe it was Caleb Downs, or was it? It was either Caleb or
it was Abdul Carter. It was Abdul Carter.
All right, so yeah, I think because Caleb had already gotten his nomination, so I went with Abdul Carter there from Penn State. But if I had to make a vote between these 3, honestly, I'd love to give it to Mike Green. I mean, led the nation this past year in sacks, 17 sacks. He had a sack against Ohio State, and this is early in the year when they had Simmons, and that line was fully healthy there. Obviously, you don't get the same kind of recognition when you're at a school like Marshall, but really just seeing his Senior Bowl and, learning a lot more about him. Obviously, I've seen him play then, and I knew about him beforehand, but the way that he's stepped up after the season was over, it really let me go back and see the kind of impact that he had throughout the season. And so if I'm not going for Abdul Carter here, as much as I'd love to vote for Caleb Downs being the Buckeye, and I think he was probably the best defensive player in the country this past year, I'm going to give it to Mike Green because, even though he's playing at a smaller level, his numbers, his impact to me is just undeniable.
And Bill, who was it that you had nominated, and who are you picking for Defensive Player of the Year?
I nominated Caleb Downs. Again, I've given him praise all year long. I think he's the best, just naturally. His instincts and his aggressiveness are off the charts. I mean, I said it in a previous episode. I think you're looking at the next Kyle Hamilton, and I think he might be better because I think he's a little bit more athletic than Kyle Hamilton is. The kid just knows how to play football. His instincts for the ball. He very rarely gets beat. And you can move him in so many different positions because he likes to hit and he likes to tackle. He's not really a kind of a roaming free safety. Like he likes to put his nose kind of into play. So, I would vote for him because I think he's the clear cut. But if I had to vote for one of these other 2, I would vote for Abdul Carter. I mean, he's going to be special even at the next level. What he can do. Another guy that's going to kind of be a hybrid at the NFL level. You can kind of move him around, play him on the edge, outside linebacker. I think he'd be able to do a lot of things with him because how much of a great athlete he is. He used to be a middle linebacker. So, he is definitely special in his own right.
Yeah, and I know for me, I nominated Mike Green. 17 sacks in the season, 3 forced fumbles. Abdul Carter had a great season, only 12 sacks, only 2 forced fumbles. And Caleb Downs really only registered 2 interceptions on the season, besides getting burnt against the University of Oregon a couple months ago. But so, I mean, for me, it's the absolute obvious obvious winner here in Mike Green. I mean, 17 sacks is nothing to bow your head at. Not to mention going absolutely viral this last week after destroying an Oregon Duck lineman. I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head. I think it was
Josh Connerly.
Josh Connerly, thank you.
Yeah.
Mike Green absolutely obliterated him with a bull rush this last week at the was the East West was the Senior Bowl practice. I get them mixed up. The Senior Bowl practice. I definitely got a vote for Mike Green and from Marshall. Absolutely had a fantastic defensive season, and I'll be excited to see him.
Wait a minute. Alex, you didn't understand the assignment here. You told us that we were voting for somebody that we didn't pick here.
Oh, right. So then Abdul Carter wins then. If we're voting for somebody I did not pick, I'm definitely voting for Abdul Carter. How we did this year is all sorts of weird. So my brain's all kind of messed up right now.
This was your idea.
It was my idea. But then when Bill threw the same people nominations as you did, it messed everything up. So
I mean, that's Bill's fault. I mean, don't blame me.
So now I am improvising. All right, I'm improvising on the spot. This is live. This is live TV. All right, ESPN.
It's not my fault. Me and Cottrell look at the game the same way, the correct way.
The big wrong way. But no, I mean, hey, if you want to nominate someone with 2 interceptions on the season as their only meaningful stats, then that's
Alex.
fine.
I understand you don't understand how football works here in the college football world here, but a safety having 2 interceptions doesn't mean that he had a bad season.
I watched him against the University of Oregon, and he got torched.
He didn't get torched. You're talking about Denzel. Denzel Burke got torched.
Denzel Burke got torched, but who's a safety over the top?
A lot of times there was no safety over the top. That's the point. That's why the game looked different the second time around. That's why Caleb Downs was he the MVP of the Rose Bowl? He was the MVP or he was in consideration. I believe he was
Jeremiah Smith.
You have an offensive and defensive.
MVP.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's clearly why they made that switch there. He's also a first-team All-American safety there. So to act like just because he only had 2 interceptions, he didn't have a great season is a little rich. A little rich for me, that's all.
Of course it is. But that's fine. You're national champion. You can say what you want. But I don't think you
first-team All-American. There's not me saying what I want. That's the country, the United States of America saying what he is.
Well, Abdul Carter wins Defensive Player of the Year. So you can argue for Caleb Downs all you want. It doesn't change the fact that he'd be third in this conversation. There's still 2 players better than him defensively, and that's all that matters.
I mean, I could easily change my vote to Caleb Downs, but I didn't. I tried to give him some love, Mike Green some love here, and you're making me regret it.
That's just your hate for Mike Green. All right, quarterback.
Guess what? We got QB of the year, and I know who I don't see. How about that? You suck on those apples.
I didn't nominate him, or else he would be there because I'm not playing Homer. I'm picking the best quarterback. So, Will Howard, if you want to nominate Will Howard as your best quarterback in college football this season, that's on you. Speaking of Cottrell, why don't you go ahead and introduce Will Howard?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only quarterback here with a national championship this past year, 13-2, led the Big Ten in completion percentage. And, he beat that other guy from the Big Ten that got all the love in the Rose Bowl. So, ultimately for me, I would have nominated Cam Ward here. I thought top 3 QBs were pretty clear, but with Will, I'll go accomplishments here. I'll get him on the list here. But since I nominated Will, I'm going to vote Cam because Cam is probably who I would have nominated had he not been on the board already.
I nominated Cam. Again, I think the effect he had on Miami and getting them the brink of the college football playoff, probably, one bad possession away from making it, and really solidifying what we all thought he was last year when he was stuck at Washington State. That's why he got my nomination. If I have to vote for somebody not him, I'm going to vote for Will Howard. Again, you can't turn an eye to what he did transferring in from Kansas State, and then playing team football all year and then winning the national championship. That's
team football does not equal best quarterback in the country.
Football's a team sport, isn't it?
Dylan Gabriel literally got nominated.
Award.
Dylan Gabriel got nominated for the Heisman because Oregon was undefeated, and those were your words. You said that played a part in it. So don't try and change the narrative now when you lost.
We all disagreed with it. And that's why we're doing it this way. That's why we're doing our own award show.
I would rather Dylan Gabriel be on here because I don't know why Jackson Dart's on this screen.
Why?
Right now.
Because he threw for 4,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, 500 rushing yards, 7 games over 350 yards. 1 game where he set the record with 515 yards and 6 touchdowns against Arkansas. Will Howard has 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Dude only won a national championship. Only won in that.
Yes,
you
hear this silliness?
Okay, so when it
Only
says
he
national
only won
champion,
national
does it say
champion.
Ohio State or does it say Will Howard?
It's Ohio
Exactly.
State. Who was the quarterback of that school, though?
You know how many Stetson Bennett has a freaking national championship? Like that doesn't make you a good quarterback. So I am voting for Cam Ward.
We're not talking about NFL aspirations here. We're talking about what they did in college this year.
Correct.
I'm voting for Cam Ward on this. Will Howard being on this side is an absolute joke. Just because
Jackson
he won a
Dart
national.
being here. You
Jackson
lose to Kentucky.
Dart.
You lose to Kentucky. You can't make my list.
Again,
I'm sorry.
You lost to Michigan.
And then won a national championship.
It does not matter. Whatever. Anyway, I'm voting for Cam Ward. He had multiple fourth quarter comebacks this season. 4,300 yards. I think probably going to be the top drafted quarterback in the NFL this year at the draft. I think Cam Ward definitely wins QB of the year.
Justin, thank you for bringing some sense from the Oregon air there. We appreciate you checking in.
No, all he said was played better than what we thought he would. We thought he was a dumpster fire, which doesn't take much to play better than that.
I didn't think he was dumpster fire, and you didn't either when you thought Oregon was going to get him out the portal. But then you switched it up after.
I
get
it was Will
you
Rogers.
You didn't. I have the receipts.
We did,
I have the
and
receipts.
yes, I got the names mixed up. And
That's
now you have
incorrect.
the receipt forever because I mistyped.
You wanted Will Howard over Will Rogers. Don't you lie to me, Alex. Don't you lie to me.
I'm plenty happy with Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
If Dylan Gabriel and Will Howard would have switched positions, the season would have ended the exact same way.
That is incorrect.
Facts. But you wouldn't have won a national championship with Dylan Gabriel?
Nope.
Really? Bill, can you chime in on this for me? Do you think Ohio State would have had the same successful season with Dylan Gabriel over Will Howard? I think, in fact, they might even win the Big Ten championship and still win the Natty if Dylan Gabriel is the QB.
It's a different looking offense, so it would be there's obviously things they did with Will Howard that they wouldn't be able to do with Gabriel, and there would be things they would have been able to do with Gabriel that they probably just took off the board with Will Howard. So it's tough. It's tough to say just definitively one way or the other than Howard because he actually did it. I think the game plan would have been different. I think they would have aired it out more, and they've done that in the past, and it's hurt them. I think them to some degree sticking true to their run game this year with what they had in the backfield. Like I said at the beginning of the year when I picked them was going to be very important, and they did that. They need to stay truer to playing a little bit more physical football and who they are. So, again, I'm not going to say it couldn't have happened. That would be silly, but I think it just would have looked differently, and I think it presents a different set of circumstances and challenges versus than what they really went through with Will Howard.
That's a very political answer, and I appreciate it. Where are we going next? Cam Ward is obviously the QB of the year. Bill is now a closet Ohio State fan and supports everything Cottrell supports. But we're moving on to the next one.
I just know what my eyes see, man. What do you want me to do?
Alex hates everything Ohio State because we keep sending them home.
If you trusted your eyes, you would know that Will Howard is not the best quarterback in the fucking country. If you trusted your eyes, you would know that.
That's not what the award is. It's QB of the year.
Yes.
To not give any credence to the guy who had a very good year, didn't have mind-blowing stats, but then a great run and won the national championship is very short-sighted, Alex.
This is the reason why these awards are done before the CFP. There's a reason why awards are given out before the college football playoff.
But we're doing our awards show. Like we're not going to ignore the college football playoff because we didn't even put up our nominees until after the season was fully over. So this is different than Heisman and Davey O'Brien and all those awards.
I would have taken a Riley Leonard
in the whole as a whole.
See, I was waiting for someone to throw Riley Leonard up there, and I was going to rip that shit up too. Just
Alex, I'll give you this question.
Okay.
End of your senior season.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be Dylan Gabriel or do you want to be Will Howard?
That's different. That's not what we're talking about right now. Though.
It is.
No, it's not.
We're not talking like like I don't want to hear Jackson Dart's numbers against a bunch of bad teams, and then when
Bad
they
teams.
win
He played in the
Arkansas.
SEC.
He said Arkansas.
What bad teams?
You said Arkansas, dude. I'll tell you this: I know how he looked against when they had to win a game against Florida to get into the college football playoff, and that dude threw 4 interceptions on 4 straight passes and got 2 of them brought back on bullshit penalties, and then he threw them again. Like I don't like. Again, we're not talking. And will Jackson Dart be a more successful NFL quarterback than Will Howard? Probably, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about, and we didn't say best. We said quarterback of the year. You can't tell me the national champion doesn't get some credence in the discussion for quarterback of the year. That's all I'm saying. And again, if you look back on your college career, I'm not talking about what your prospects would be as a pro. When you look back at your college career, would you want to be Will Howard or Dylan Gabriel? Thank you.
But okay, fine. But that's like saying, would I rather be Stetson Bennett or Will Howard? Like, I'd rather be Stetson Bennett than Will Howard. Like,
okay,
you know what I mean? Like,
he won two. He won two.
But he won two. Correct.
That's why.
You're only
Correct.
asking.
That is the point. That is the point.
I don't think you guys are getting the point at all.
Would you rather leave college football, your college football career, with a bunch of gaudy numbers and get drafted anyway,
The best
or a bunch of pretty good numbers and a ring and a trophy? This isn't a hard question.
The best quarterback doesn't go 19 for 33 and 57% completion percentage against Michigan. Dylan Gabriel had 70%. I was saying he can't be the best.
Okay, all right. So what was Dylan Gabriel's numbers against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl?
I have to pull them up. If obviously he had it was like 300 and some odd yards.
Well, yeah, and a lot of that was trash in the second half when Ohio State was playing.
Okay, well, if Cottrell's making this argument, we can have this argument. If you want to talk about comparing passing yards in the Rose Bowl,
I'm saying if you want to bring up one bad game, then I mean that's fine. But to ignore the run in the playoff against
your boy just brought up a great point. Very down year in the SEC, so factor that in as well.
Oh boy! All right. Anyway, on to performance of the year, or else we're going to be on this freaking show till 9:00 trying to talk sense into these yahoos. But performance of the year, Cottrell, who was it that you had nominated and give you a little argument for him?
So I mean, you talk about a guy that absolutely got torched. It was everybody in the Oregon secondary, and so my nomination was Jeremiah Smith in a big game that mattered, a revenge game. You actually had it where Jeremiah Smith was, a lot of people thought was a big reason why Ohio State lost the first matchup. He had the push off, the controversial offensive pass interference, and then he came out in that game against Oregon and really left no doubt. A lot of it happened in the first half because a lot of it didn't need to happen in the second half. I mean, he at halftime had like 6 catches for 130 something yards and 2 touchdowns. So I thought we might be on track for him to have a Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of Rose Bowl, but ultimately didn't need it. It was a lot of people feasting there, but as far as just pure dominance and taking over a game, Jeremiah Smith for me had one of the best performances of the year. But with all that said, my vote is going to go over to Cam Scatterboo. If just for players that that I didn't nominate here, I'll go with Cam because again, I'd imagine that it's going to be for the performance in the college football playoff. But Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the
That's Bill's nomination, so Bill will have to answer that question.
I nominate Cam for his performance in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl against against Texas. 2 rushing touchdowns, 150 yards on almost 30 carries, threw a touchdown through the air, 1 for 150 yards passing, touchdown, and then he had another 8 catches for 99 yards through the air as well. I will never take anything away from Jeremiah Smith. I think he's been everything that he was advertised to be. But if we're talking about actually taking a game over and single-handedly, willing your team back into a game and putting them on the verge of victory, I don't think there was any better example of a performance of that than Cam Scatterboo this year.
Yeah, and for me, I nominated Tetaroa McMillan. We have to go way back to I believe it was week 0 or week 1 that he had this performance against New Mexico State. 10 catches, 304 yards, 4 touchdowns in one game. It do average over 30 yards per catch. Absolutely killed it. Unfortunately, the rest of the season did not go out as planned for Arizona. Noah Fafita and him weren't able to have the same success the rest of the year. McMillan's going to be a fantastic NFL receiver, but for that, I had to nominate him. 304 yards, 4 touchdowns. It's nothing to bat your eyelashes out. With that being said, though, I would have to vote for Cam Scatabo. That timing of – you laugh every time I say his name. I always mess it up.
No, it's not even that. I just knew who you were voting for.
What's that supposed to mean? Oh, because Ohio State. Yeah, you're right. But also, like, he put the Jeremiah Smith, and Ohio State would have been able to beat Oregon had Jeremiah Smith had not had.
Oh, yeah. We were going to give you all that belt regardless. You're right.
Oh, my gosh, dude. You are so just – I can't wait for the season to be over.
I love it. I'm just going to keep getting under this skin.
Arizona State was even in that game. The only reason Arizona State didn't get absolutely obliterated by the press after the game ended was because of Cam. Like I said, catching, running, throwing. He was even hurt. He's throwing up on the sideline. I mean, dude literally embodied Arizona State University in that game. So definitely got to vote for Cam in that one. So I think that means Cam is has the performance of the year. I don't think any of these three really could have been wrong. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith and Cam at the stage that they did it, that their performance is on, is unmatched. McMillan obviously just had, I think, probably the best game of the regular season by far. So all three of them definitely deserve it. I definitely have to go with Cam, though, if I had to vote. This one is kind of fun, though. I really like this one. The bust of the year. We all pretty much voted for the same thing, so we had to throw in a couple others to make it kind of seem like there were options. But Cottrell, why is Florida State the bust of the year?
Well, I had DJU, Florida State. I thought Kansas was the school that could have been up there as well, but I mean, Florida State just coming off of a year where everyone thought they should have been, not everyone, but a lot of people thought they should have been in the college football playoff. The school that, obviously got the doors blown off of them by Georgia in their bowl game at the end of last year. You'd have thought that was a team that was going to come in with something to prove, and especially with the expansion going to a 12-team playoff, that Florida State was going to leave no doubt this year. And they left no doubt, all right. They left no doubt that they were absolutely horrible football team. You go out in the portal, you get DJU, who deservedly belongs on this list as well here. But you go out, get him, and you win 2 football games. Mike Norvell went from looking like an absolute, hot commodity, looking at someone who could have potentially been looking at the Bama job there. Like, Mike Norvell is going to be one of those names that really could be on the rise there. But then you come out and you have a 2-10 football season the year following that undefeated season, and it's an awful look. So especially considering a lot of people have Florida State making the playoff, or not even just making the playoff, but winning the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, I nominated Florida State as well. I guess we had to throw Utah in here as a filler. I think their situation's a little different anyway, but I'm going to break the rules here and vote for my own thing because I think it's that clear cut of a winner.
I agree.
To have the resources, and I would have been surprised if Florida State showed up on some of the list earlier for jobs. To have all that in that roster and the amount of money they paid for it and everything else. And again, if you go 8-3 and miss the playoff by a game or something, that would have been one thing. To go 2-10, just no. I mean, that team completely quit and rolled over. So I'm breaking the rule and voting for my own nominee because I there's no way in hell they should get out of this category without winning it.
No, I completely agree. Florida State, absolutely atrocious. Really, DJ, you were just kind of thrown in there, and Utah you're right, it was a filler. Cottrell did mention Kansas as a nomination as well. I had a hard time throwing Kansas in only because their last 3 wins of the season essentially eliminated 3 teams from the Big 12 championship game and college football playoff aspirations. So, to me, that's a pretty dang good wrap-up of the season where Florida State just could not get anything rolling. Florida State is definitely the bust of the year. It'll be exciting to see what teams next year are up for this category. Do you guys? It's a little fun thing since we're almost done here. Who's your team next year that you think will not have as good of a season as people might think they are?
Alabama.
Okay. What you, Bill?
I'll go with. I'll go with Tennessee.
Okay.
And we know yours, Alex.
No. I'm going to say Notre Dame. I think Ohio State has a better chance of making the college football playoff. I think Notre Dame has a tougher schedule than is led on for next season, and I think that Notre Dame is actually going to be the bust of the year next year. If I have to throw a name out there, so no, Cottrell, not Ohio State, keeping you on your toes. Do we have any other categories? I forgot if we did or not.
I believe so.
Yeah, one more.
Oh, we got a few more.
2 more. Okay, perfect. This one's really fun. Surprise team of the year. Cottrell, who did you nominate?
You keep putting me on the spot here. I don't remember.
Okay, my bad. Cottrell, Arizona. Cottrell and Bill both did Arizona State. I did SMU. I threw Indiana in there because I feel like after a losing season, first-year head coach, college football playoff, only 2 losses, being to the national championship contenders, I feel like Indiana definitely deserved to be on surprise team of the year. I definitely didn't have them in the CFP to start the year. I obviously nominated SMU. But, Bill, why do you think Arizona State is the surprise team of the year?
I'll say this. Like, I actually think this is probably the most competitive category we've had up so far, to be honest. Indiana, I think, has, a claim to it here because I think there was, with Kirk Cignetti coming from James Madison and me and Cottrell both being familiar with him, Cottrell's always kind of been, a little bit of a James Madison fan. I would say we all expected Indiana to improve, not to the point where they did, though. But there was a little bit of talk of them. SMU, I believe you picked SMU to win the ACC at the beginning of the year. So I think even though nationally they didn't get a lot of love, I think if you actually watch football and pay attention and not get your talking points handed to you before you go on air, I think a lot of people, had a little bit of a hunch that SMU was coming a little bit. But again, probably not to that degree. I just skew towards Arizona State here because, nobody. We had people that picked Colorado. We had Kansas State. I had BYU. Everybody, Arizona. Everybody, Iowa State. Everybody talked about pretty much everybody in the Big 12 about winning the Big 12, but Arizona State. So that's why they get the nod for me. But I think both the other teams in this category are very deserving and. Definitely both, again, would create a really good discussion. But I think both those other teams got a little bit more love preseason, definitely than Arizona State did.
Cottrell, how about for you?
For me, you said I nominated Arizona State here, and did, I like Bill said. I think these you do have some great stories here. I didn't pick SMU to make the playoff. I didn't pick Indiana to make the playoff. And as much as I did like Cignetti, I didn't think that he would turn it around that fast. I thought that was an opportunity for them to be decent. But then again, I wasn't really checking for Indiana. But when I look at it with Arizona State, to Bill's point, they were a team that I would have never – you could have gave me 25 teams to ultimately fill the top 12 spots. I would have never gotten – Arizona State in that college football playoff bracket with any of those 25 guesses. Like there was probably a time last year where I didn't even know if Arizona State would be bowl eligible. Towards the beginning of the year, like before the season actually started there. So that's ultimately why I went with them, but I want to give all the credit in the world to SMU and Indiana. Alex, you were all over SMU. So you already knew what was coming there. But Indiana, for it to happen as fast as it did, I don't want to take anything away from them, but I also think circumstances do matter. Bill's biggest gripe with them all season was who they beat to get there. I think Arizona State, them having the ability to go out, play Texas, take it to overtime, and literally give them every single thing that they wanted and then some, I think that just ultimately gave Arizona State the edge for me.
Yeah, I mean, SMU loved them all season. Arizona State, great. It's a great story. But I love Indiana in this category. The reason being is if you had to rank the conferences as far as difficulty, I think this year alone we would have said Big Ten, SEC, probably Big 12, ACC. So for Indiana to only lose 2 games this year, just missed out on the Big Ten championship opportunity and still make the college football playoff in the first year under Kurt Cignetti. I got to give it to Indiana, just being coming out of the tougher conference. Ultimately, playing the tougher schedule. Like I said, ultimately did not get past.
Schedule. Stop saying that.
Compared to Arizona State or SMU,
they had the weakest strength of schedule by like 30 spots in the college football playoff when it started.
Okay, so then I guess I'm wrong there. But you can't turn down the fact that the only 2 losses to the season were to the 2 National Football Championship teams, or playing teams. So I do love Kurt Cignetti.
They're the least accomplished team out of the 3 of them. Just want to point that out.
All right, next one.
You know, Bill hates Indiana, Alex. I don't even know why you're
for good reason. SMU made their conference championship game. Arizona State won their conference. The only thing they have in common is they both all 3 of them made the college football playoff. But my statement rings true. Indiana's the least accomplished out of the 3 of them, and they had the worst strength of schedule. They don't have one quality win.
They beat Michigan. Anyway, breakout star.
Like I said,
breakout star of the year. 3 great categories. I know I nominated John Mateer. Bill, you did DJ Lagway, and Cottrell nominated Jeremiah Love. Cottrell, you want to start off with what made you nominate Jeremiah Love?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Jeremiah Love is a guy who you knew he was at Notre Dame, but like you didn't know he was going to have the effect that he did. Last year, Notre Dame really ran a running back kind of by committee approach. Obviously, Audric Estime was like that top back, that lead dog there. But Jeremiah Love really came on the scenes and took over that role. And, Alex, to your point a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Jeremiah Love, he was only getting like 15, 16 carries a game. So nothing crazy, but what he was able to do all season with just that small amount of workload was absolutely incredible. I mean, Notre Dame doesn't get to the Natty without Jeremiah Love having the special year that he had there. So for me, that's why I put Jeremiah Love on the list. I think looking forward to next year, like going from not really knowing much about you to next year, you're probably a top 10 returning player to college football. I think for me, that just screams breakout star of the year.
Bill, what made you nominate DJ Lagway?
Again, he didn't even start the season as a starter. He's a guy that, I think we all knew was coming at some point. And then when he finally got on the field, he was electric and literally turned Florida's season around, helped, Billy Napier keep his job. And I think Florida is one of the teams everybody's really looking forward to watching next year, is him being, the dead set starter, like Cottrell mentioned earlier, not looking over his shoulder with Graham Mertz or anything like that. Like, he's just going to be the guy. Kid is super gifted, just across the board. And again, I think with him, it's not only what he did, it's also the impact that he had. So, I voted for DJ. Jeremiah Love, I love, I think I've made that clear over the last month, the way I've talked about him. But I don't dislike John Mateer either. But I think this is one of the better categories we had.
Yeah, I mean, John Mateer, who I nominated, third-year guy at Washington State. This year threw for 3,200 yards, 29 touchdowns, ran for another 826 and another 15 touchdowns for 44 total touchdowns this season. He was able to turn his performance at Washington State into an NIL deal with Oklahoma. He'll be quarterbacking for Oklahoma in the SEC next year. I'm excited to see what he can do next season. This year, he was sacked 31 times. I do believe Oklahoma is going to have a much improved offensive line next season. And if they can keep John Mateer upright, Oklahoma is going to be a fun team to watch next season. And this year, being almost having 1,000 yards rushing from the quarterback spot, that's nothing to batch eyelashes at. But I definitely got to agree with the DJ Lagway nomination. At the beginning of the season, we were debating if Florida was going to be over or under 2.5 wins. I mean, that's where Florida started the season. with Graham Mertz at the helm, as we were debating how few wins they were going to have, and they ended up being bowl eligible. And that's 99.8% because of DJ Lagway. And I think that the future for Florida is definitely bright. I would have to – the reason I'm voting for DJ Lagway in this situation is, one, I nominated John Mateer, but DJ Lagway, like I said, they took a team that we thought was a 3-win team to a bowl-eligible team strictly because of him. So DJ Lagway would be my breakout star of the year.
Yeah, and if I had to vote for someone outside of Jeremiah Love, I would vote for DJ Lagway as well for a lot of the same reasons. You look at – I mean, I knew that DJ would be a star at Florida, but it's one thing to just, like, have that projection for him, and it's another thing to actually go out there and do it. So I said before the year, I was like, if Billy Napier wants to keep his job – I mean, I said it before the season started on here – Billy Napier wants to keep his job. DJ Lagway has to be your starting quarterback at some point because I'd have to have my ship go down with DJ as opposed to with Graham. So he really just went out and did, exactly what I thought he was capable of, and I think it's going to be even better next year. So, yeah, I definitely would roll with DJ there as well. Bill, who would you vote for out of the three outside of DJ?
I'd have to go with Jeremiah Love. Again, impact I think has to matter. He helped get them to a national championship game. The fact they didn't use him in the national championship game is still pissing me off.
We're not going to start this again. We're not starting this conversation right now. We're not.
Use your best player and just let him touch the ball 4 times in the national championship game. It's fine. It's fine. But my vote for Jeremiah Love for sure.
Right on. All right. And this is the last one.
Last one.
Perfect. Last category of the Coast to Coast season, Coach of the Year. We got three coaches. 2 of you nominated the same one. So I went ahead and I did add, obviously, Curt Cignetti in there. First-year coach, Indiana. James Madison, Indiana in the college football playoff. Bill, you want to give us your reasoning for why you had nominated Kyle Dillingham?
I'm glad we added Marcus Freeman because I almost nominated Marcus Freeman. But I went with Kyle Dillingham again. I think with the expectations coming into the season, this is kind of like breakout team. I think everything I said there, you could say here. Nobody picked them to win the Big 12. I've read a couple places they were picked to win finished last by a couple places. And that's under Kansas and all those teams. And to really, I think that the big thing for me is you look at how players respond to their coaches, and I think that's a big thing for me. I know, like how it was with Harbaugh. Like, some people make fun of him and think he's kind of quirky and dorky, but his players love him. I'm sure you can say the same thing with Ryan Day. Marcus Freeman is really big up high on that list. I think you have to, being a coach in college especially, your kids have to be bought in, but they also have to believe in you and believe in what you say. And if you watched Arizona State, through the end of the pack or the Big 12 season, Big 12 championship game, and then obviously into the college football playoff, that guy absolutely had the pulse of his team. Those kids love playing for him. Very emotional, very connected. Dan Lanning's another guy, not to leave him out of this conversation, but and Ryan Day the same. Like you have to be able to motivate people, but again, they have to believe in you. They have to believe in what you're saying and believe that what you're telling them is right, and really have that trust to go out there and kind of put their vision on the field using you. So I always look at that. I look at how kids react to their coaches. That's always been a big thing for me. And those kids love playing for him. He's young. I think he gets them on a different level than a lot of older coaches do. I think he understands where they're coming from a little bit better being younger. Because like we've mentioned so many times this year on the show, the landscape of college football has changed so much. And to be able to communicate and just, kind of get along with younger kids is definitely a great thing to have as a coach. So, to get them where he got them this year, with no expectations and, kind of no fanfare, that he's the winner for me. The hard part now is kind of doing it and living up to the hype now, because he's going to have hype next year, and that's what Marcus Freeman went through this year, and he passed with flying colors. Curt Cignetti, we'll see. Again, a guy that I think if you follow college football for a long time, you know who he was. I mean, Cottrell's been talking about James Madison since I've known him. So, again, a really good coach in his own right. I think he's a little weird because I think he's a little standoffish, and I think a lot of people view him as a little probably too cocky than he should be. But again, if you look at how the Indiana team played this year and how they respond to him, they definitely loved him as their coach. So I think it's 3 great examples. I think we nailed this category. My vote would still be for Kyle, though.
How about you, Cottrell?
So for me, I mean, I nominated Kyle for a lot of the same reasons that Bill had there. Again, we just talked about a lot of that being the case with the biggest surprise of the year, and I think with Kyle Dillingham, clearly these guys are coached the right way there. I look at the way they played in their college football playoff game, and ultimately a lot of schools in that situation would have rolled over. A lot of schools would have just gotten blown out. You know, it's not to as like a knock on SMU, but for example, like SMU, they got down early, and a lot of it was on Kevin Jennings. I think he played his worst game of the year there. But for Arizona State, you know, those guys fall back. Indiana, kind of the same thing there. I think defense showed a lot of heart there in the game there, but offense really just never got things rolling. And I'm not going to say they rolled over, but they definitely didn't fight back how Arizona State did. So ultimately for me, you know, as great of a year as Marcus Freeman had, and definitely think he's deserving of being in here on this category with that Notre Dame team, who, you know, to just bring back a topic that we had earlier in the year, that was a team that, you know, Bill said would be fool's gold. And, you know, he proved a lot of us wrong. I was right there in agreement with him. You know, I thought Notre Dame would be a team that won a ton of games. When they actually had to face good teams, they weren't going to win them. So if Marcus Freeman to get that bunch all the way to the national championship game, I think it definitely matters, and, you know, solidifies his nominee here. But for me, I lean towards Kyle Dillingham a little bit more, just because of, one, they came out of nowhere, and two, they took a Texas team from the SEC where they were clearly outmatched talent-wise. They took them to the brink, and, you know, we're still talking about a replay call that if it goes the other way, Arizona State is a team that's in your national semifinals.
My prediction for Fool's Gold was looking great after the Northern Illinois loss. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was. Yeah, Marcus Freeman. Kyle Dillingham definitely wins it for me. I nominated Marcus Freeman, making it to the national championship. Second year of the program. Notice Notre Dame always seems like that team that has all, just like Justin said, all hype. But this year they did not fail with that hype. So for me, I would vote Marcus Freeman out of the 3. I think Kurt Signetti had a huge impact at Indiana, and it'd be interesting to see if he's building a culture there, or if he just came into the right pieces. So it'll be interesting to see how Indiana does this year and the next year as well. Same with Arizona State. Obviously, Kyle Dillingham is coming from that Oregon coaching tree. So obviously, I love huge respect for him. He's got Sam Levitt, who is an Oregon high school standout as his quarterback. So I love Arizona State in the future. I just think Marcus Freeman had a fantastic year as the coach, and definitely got to go for him if I had to vote.
Gentlemen, we just had our longest show of the year.
The longest show ever.
Ever. But
ever.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting for sure. Next year is kind of moving on and already looking. You guys have any final thoughts here before we wrap this up?
I can't wait to not have to come on here every Saturday morning to get berated by Cottrell's Ohio State National Championship or Bill's secret Ohio State love. It's going to be great to be able to breathe again.
I will be back to. I mean, I can't see myself picking Ohio State to win the national championship next year. So I will be back to being a little critical, but still, I have to be objectionable.
Still fair.
I'm still fair. I have to be a sports journalist above all else.
I'm anything but.
That's a fact. But for what it's worth, right now, I'm not like how my outlook goes for the season. Until I see something different, I'm not picking Ohio State to win the national championship next year. So it's a nice
It will be interesting when we come back on after spring ball and everything. Because that's gonna be one of our first shows. It's gonna be very interesting to see, who we end up. You gonna say hi? Who we end up actually picking.
Yeah.
But that being said, Gentlemen, closing thoughts. It's been another great year. Anything you guys would like to say before we sign off here?
I would like to say I think we should get together in April after the spring games and do a little spring game episode. Just throwing that out there now.
I'm gonna cover all that in a second, but
Oh, perfect.
It's possible.
But no, I mean, great season, guys. I appreciate being on the show as always. All the awesome fans, Justin tuning in every Saturday. Great season in college football. College football playoff was a success. I can honestly say, and I'm excited to see if any adjustments are made for next year. But that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, no, I'll echo a lot of what Alex said. Definitely been a great year. I mean, just even numbers wise, like views. This year I've seen a ton more views than even last season. So we're about close to 60 shows together at this point. Probably a little bit over 50, somewhere between 50 and 60 shows all together. So it's been fun. Obviously the ride growing, it's been awesome. But I'm looking forward to next year. I think we're gonna have to. We've talked about a little bit. Flirted with the idea before, but getting on the road, man, getting on the road, going somewhere, figuring it out. Whether it be a Big Ten Media Day was the idea I floated, but maybe even next year, Senior Bowl or East West Shrine Bowl, like just getting out there, getting on the road, getting together. I think. Had a ton of great content. Obviously, we all think and view the game differently. Alex, for what it's worth, I would have never picked SMU to make my college football playoff. So the fact that you were all over that, they made it. They looked great all season, like super cool there. And the fact that we are coming literally from all over the country at this point. Oregon, Ohio State fan. Bill, you're up in PA, but fan of Michigan there. It's been fun to see how everything's been coming full circle and just how our ideas have been bouncing off of each other. So still making the journey, but I love where we've been so far, and I see a bright future ahead.
Yeah. So in closing all this, I want to touch on a lot of stuff you guys just said. We definitely have to get a live broadcast together somehow, and maybe have it be Big Ten Media Day. Maybe we all meet for the Big Ten championship game next year, no matter who makes it. I'll just somebody can call Pat McAfee and see if we can borrow his studio or something out in Indy. But the get together thing definitely has to happen next year. I've said this before, and I've worked with Cottrell for it sounds funny to say a long time because it's only been like 3 years, but it's been so many shows now.
Hey, we're going on 5, buddy.
I know. And Alex, the last 2 years, and obviously, I mean, I've actually known Alex longer than I know Cottrell. So, but I've said this before, and these two guys make my job extremely easy. Being like a co-host on Wire to Wire, and Gene kind of really, running that ship to what I do here. These two guys make it very easy for all three of us to look good. So another huge thank you to both of you for what you do behind the scenes. Obviously, Justin Louder, I do not want to forget you. Been super fan since day one. And those are the type of people you need to grow. And to get back to what Cottrell said, we've kind of really hit our stride this year. We've got a lot of traction this year, and we've really, we saw it at the end of the year with views and downloads and stuff like that. Like this is going in the direction we all hoped it was going to. So for everybody that supports us, watches us, downloads, listens, comments, everything, thank you from all three of us. I promise you the three of us enjoy the hell out of doing this show. And that's not going to change anytime soon. So all of that. And we have, we've kind of already thought of some stuff we want to do for next year. The first year this came together kind of really quick. And then this year, I think, coming in with a different viewpoint, I think we've definitely hit our stride, and it's shown. And we're going to try to continue to grow and keep doing it. It's a lot of fun. I can talk about college football every day. I know Cottrell and Alex both good too. So this is definitely a pleasure project for us. And, we will be back next year. Probably sooner than later. I'm sure we'll probably put some kind of draft, special together and just hop back on for a couple hours somewhere here in the next month or so. And, Obviously, also look out for Cottrell's reel to reel. I'm assuming you're going to bring that back. That is extremely well done. He'll pick 4 or 5 prospects for the draft and really break them down with video and everything else. It's very well done. So they will be up on the channel as well. And it'll be the middle of August before we know it. And we'll be back doing conference previews and everything else. So, gentlemen, I appreciate everything. Thank you. Everybody that listens, everybody that's supported, done everything. We appreciate the hell out of you, Justin Louder, especially. Gene's on here all the time, even when he's at work. Help always spreading the word as always. A huge fan of the show for us. We'll be back next year, and hopefully we'll be even better than we were this year. And college football, I think we have to give a thank you to the college football seasons in general. I think the playoff was everything we thought it was going to be. Maybe not everybody, the 2 teams thought we're going to make it to the end, but I thought overall, I thought the games themselves were great. So we'll see what tweaks they have in store for us and everything else. And, we'll be back next year. So that is it for us this year. We're signing off right at the 3-hour mark almost. I am tired of hearing myself talk today, and tired of hearing Alex complain and everything else. So, but love you guys, and we will be back sooner than later. Everybody else, thank you.
Absolutely.